guys ready? I'm gonna hit that button. Oh wait, sorry, say something real quick.
Yo, can you hear me?
If everything sounds good, we're hitting it right.
Yeah.
Hit it.
Hit it or quit it.
Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another. What's a good term for this? I was gonna make a Ret pun joke, but I didn't have one. So welcome back to another hella good episode of Classic Life. Today is gonna be the Ret Paladin episode with the Holy Police, the Crusader. Ret Lives Matter. I don't know. I don't know what
Spanish,
they are. But
the Spanish Inquisition.
there you go. The Spanish
we're
Inquisition.
We're both Discord cops. It's fine.
Yeah. We're doing the Ret Paladin here. Strictly Ret Paladin. We got two amazing guests here. I can't wait to introduce them. We'll let Sarthe introduce them. To start off, my friend Sarthe, how are you doing?
Yo, doing great, doing great. Excited to hear about Ret Paladins. This was actually gonna be my main, one of my mains until like, I think I'm just waiting until tier 10. So I'm so curious to hear what you guys think about the class right now, all the changes. It's so fun. So I'm just hyped for this episode.
Have you touched it all in prepatch or anything yet? Like, do you have a Paladin made yet?
I have not made my Paladin. I'm gonna make two prop.
You definitely cut out just now.
I finished my fourth Death Knight, so
yeah.
Oh,
fourth Death Knight. How's that going, bud?
Four.
How's the gearing going on him?
One's coming along. The other three are just starting. So this weekend, AV weekend's gonna be. I'm gonna spend a lot of time.
Yeah. Yo, you're in a BG with me last night. You were doing hella damage on it. It's pretty crazy.
Bro, it is so fun. Like, okay, so that's my most geared one, and I just like you were fucking one-shotting people.
Yeah.
I like two-shot everyone in every like BG. So you just run up, or if I get like a proc, it's like I can Howling Blast, and it takes 5 separate people down to like 20% HP. It's like,
Dude, it's crazy. These DKs are slowly becoming like my most hated thing and out there.
I mean, a DK with full season 4 is pretty scary. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's what I'm rocking.
They just grip me in. I'm a caster, obviously. They grip my boosted 4K HP boomy or whatever. They just like grip it in, one shot.
done.
Or a rogue will be out there
Done.
two poking me. When they realize it's me, they're in the stream finding me the whole game, just shutting me down. Like, oh my god.
yo, if you have 4K HP, I'm for sure
Yeah.
one-shotting you.
Yeah, dude. I gotta get noggin fugger. I didn't think about that. Everyone said to get noggin fugger so people can't tell I'm a boomy. I was like, oh shit, that's a good idea.
Well, boomies are like scary too, because if you sit back, you're doing
That's true.
on your boosted boomy, you're still like the most DPS in the entire instance,
It's
right?
crazy, yeah.
So it's like everyone needs to kill you. That's like the whole goal.
Yeah, it's crazy. A lot of fun though.
Yeah.
Mr. Surveillant, how are you doing, my friend? You want to introduce yourself and name your favorite Ret Paladin spell and a little bit about you?
My favorite Ret Paladin spell. Well, that's probably just like a good old fashioned twist. There's nothing better than a good old fashioned like reckoning twist in the
True.
arena.
There you go.
But I do YouTube videos about Ret, mostly just PBC stuff up until now. Starting to get my feet in the door for Wrath. Working with people like Terryn and Swedge, who is a fellow guy over at Light Club. Fonzas, who I believe is now working for the DKs. He like makes
Yes,
Weak
he's going ham.
Yeah, he's an awesome guy. You know, I worked with him a lot, making WeakAuras and different kinds of tech for Ret, and just putting out videos about Ret in my free time. And right now we're just kind of trying to figure out like Wrath Ret, because it is a little bit more complicated than people are giving it credit for. And honestly, I think it's a little bit better too than people want to say it is. So.
Yeah, all I'm
Yo,
hearing is
yes.
something about a one button. I can't wait to learn about it because there's one button or is there no one button or you know what I mean?
Oh,
So
brother.
I'm excited to hear
That's
about
not
it. This is
that's
one I'll
not a
actually
thing.
pay attention to because out of all the melee classes, this is I like Feral too, but this is the one that never pisses me off. Not in terms of their damage or nothing, but like warriors are assholes and they're dumb, so like whatever. DKs are just so annoying now. I've hated them. Ferals whatever, but Ret never angers me. You know? Plus you get the
Ret? I feel like Ret is about to become a huge nuisance in battlegrounds because like you just cleave people down, and anytime you 1v1 somebody, you just instantly flash of light spam yourself and you just like full heal. So your
Crazy,
sustain
man.
is pretty crazy. I mean, in battlegrounds right now, Ret is looking really strong.
Yeah, they're getting. Yeah, they're doing some crazy shit. I see them out there hurting me.
I
Terryn,
feel them chasing me down.
my friend Terryn, known you for 5-6 years from the retail world, brother. Now you're not a warlock anymore, which is okay. I'm not taking that to heart. I like that you're right now. How are you doing, brother? You want to tell us a little bit about yourself, favorite spell and stuff?
Good. I'm Terryn. I'm a Discord cop. I ban people on Light Club, and really like Divine Storm, and I had a lot of problems when beta went up, trying to Divine Storm instead of Twist for some reason. So that was fun. Yeah, I'm a Janny. That's about it. I also write on Wowhead.
There you go. Yes,
That's like a
Terryn-
big one to add, right?
Yeah, I forgot to
Oh,
mention
by
that
the way,
Terryn is the Wowhead writer. He's the Ret.
Yeah, I
Wowhead
also
writer.
write all of the guides. Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
Terryn's-
identify
that's
more
what I-
as the as the Discord police.
He's
I love
one of the
that.
good ones too. He's one of the only Wowhead writers that will go back and edit
Oh.
their articles when there's new data that comes out. So
I didn't realize
he's one of the good ones.
Hell yeah.
picture was messed up. I'll fix that while you guys are talking.
Oh, no worries.
Sarthe, do you want to take away anything of Lich King news, including like maybe this whole ban shit that's going on, whatever else you want to take it away for a little bit from me?
Yeah, let's start with let's talk about this because I'm curious what you guys think also. Dude, the bans, holy cow, those fucking bans that went out this week. Like, first of all of the servers are like unplayable, literally unplayable, some of them. We have a 5-hour to 9-hour queue I've seen on Benny, and like hundreds or thousands, tens of thousands of people got banned this week for quote unquote AFKing in Alterac Valley, but they weren't AFK. How do you guys feel about it? Did you know anyone getting banned or like what?
I've been hearing a lot of people getting banned for being AFK, and I bet you they are, bro. You know, people are doing it. They're trying to act like they're not. You probably are, but they're banning people from like, you know, hitting the flag and then AFKing at, you know, sitting flag. Which at that point it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, don't sit flag. Someone has to sit flag. But someone said in chat, I don't know if this is true, but someone said in chat last night that they're not just banning right out, they're actually looking to see if you're doing damage and you're healing and stuff like that. They'll look to best.
That's what they said. They said
true,
in a post that they are actively investigating. It's not automated. The system's not automated. I don't know.
Okay, so
Yeah, I have opinions on this too.
yeah, go on.
they have a long history of that, of like saying it's not automated. But anyway, go ahead, Terryn.
So I work in tech, and I work with a lot of people that do so from the post that they were talking about, there's like clearly some sort of data scientists going on where they're pulling in a lot of game analytics and other stuff to figure out, oh, okay, what does an actual AFK player look like? And I think that there's just a lot of false positives going on. They're saying that like, oh, the review process isn't automated. Having seen review process, obviously not for this game, but for other large scale automated processes that exist in the tech world, that review process is probably a giant Google Doc or Excel document that somebody looks at and says, yep, good enough. And this was just a big giant whoopsie bear of a of something. I can't fathom the thing that threw me off was the 30-day thing, because these have traditionally been like what, 24 hour and then 7. Like there's like an offense.
There was
rate.
no step up into it. It was like
That
straight.
was nuts.
Yeah.
But like for me, when I saw, especially when I saw that the post that they came out with like yesterday or last night or something, that to me screams like a data analyst. Not necessarily gone awry, but something got weird with whatever their algorithm's doing. And all these algorithms are black boxes. Like they're not anything that you can really have any idea. It's like the YouTube algorithm. Google doesn't know how that works. Like honestly, it's like they're just trying to maximize hits, and so they have no idea how it gets there. And I'm sure that there's some of that going on here, and they only realized something was going wrong because it went so catastrophically wrong that everyone was up in arms. So
Yeah,
I mean, on it at least.
This has happened before, realistically. Like, I think huge bandwaves went out in AFK AVs, like it was in pre-patch, and then also when AV first launched. Like the first day of AV, it's always people actually playing it, and then it's like a lot of people not playing it, and they try to like overcompensate because they do get a lot of complaints, but they just cast a really wide net here, and it hit a lot of people.
There was a Reddit thread like with a video of a rogue just like capping, and there's like literally 7 to 10 AFK death knights, just like not even aware. So it's
I mean, there's definitely people AFK.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's a wide net, like you were saying. So
Like
Yeah.
30 days seems a little bit excessive to me. Like
oh,
a day,
absolutely.
3 days, it already seems like kind of a lot for an AFKing in a battleground. But like, I mean, obviously there's some give and take. Like, there's obviously people AFKing, and then there's obviously people that are getting caught just defending by whatever algorithm, like Terryn said. This reminds me of the Paladin ban waves because
Oh
in
no.
TBC,
From,
Paladins got
Stratholm, right?
banned in Strat.
Oh
Yeah, like
no. Don't
you
remind
would
me.
just farm Strat for a couple hours and then you'd get banned for no reason, and it was like count disabled, like not even like it was like a perma ban,
Oh
and
my god.
pretty much everybody got their bans appealed eventually. So we know they were like, you know, not proper bans, but they at that time they also said that like, their process in the appeals they said that like this is not an automated process, but like I really don't believe that because we could not narrow down like a factor that was causing everybody to get banned besides Paladin in Strat. And it wasn't even just Strat. Paladins got banned in SM, they got banned in Skolo. So it wasn't even like just Strat home. It was like there was no singular factor among all the bans because I was tracking them for a while.
It seems like to me, it seems like they're doing whenever they update the system for like something they need to track that's new, right? Like they obviously have some sort of flagging system that system is automated, and then of course like maybe they have that like something like a spreadsheet that they look at. But whenever they update the system to something new, and it's like, oh, we need to turn back on us watching AV because now a lot more people are having that as an issue, or like we need to start looking at the paladins in like Stratholme or in dungeons because people are telling us that a lot of people are just like botting in there. Like when they turn something on, it turns on like a lot more than they realize what they meant to. It's not like as fine-tuned, and maybe it's a conscious decision because they know it would take more time for them. I'm not sure, you might know, Terryn, but like maybe they consciously do it because they're hit all of the bots, and then so many people will like come back and like appeal that they'll just like, all right, then we'll just deal with those and get people back in.
I don't know. I think it's most likely like Occam's razor. I think it's literally like somebody screwed up. Like to me that's what it smells like. I don't even think that it's like malicious or trying to be proactive and we'll fix it after the fact. I literally just think that it's an algorithm got tuned a little too harshly, or like if you add in a new parameter, things get a little weird, and if you're not going through proper steps to verify and all that, then yeah, something like this can happen.
Yeah.
Here's the deal, bro. I get it that you sometimes you just AFK and shit, and that shit happens.
Yeah, I think there's people that don't want to admit that they were AFKing.
Dude, damage! Play the
So
fucking game.
many. Yeah,
Play
for
the
sure. There's
goddamn game.
Go hit
And you won't get fucking banned. It's that easy. And also,
I'm
Blizzard,
like-
what are you doing, bro? Ban the motherfuckers buying 100,000 gold. You over here banning people trying to get their fucking money, get their honor while they're at work. Yeah, I mean, you're not so. Yeah, it sounds shitty. Like they're just at work trying to be AFK. I get it. But like, there's people buying 100,000s a ban. You're banning them for 24 hours type shit. You got people playing your game that are human beings. You're banning them for a month.
They don't even
7
take away
days,
the
a
gold.
month?
They ban you for 24 hours.
What?
They don't take the
in a
gold.
flagpole? Like, what the fuck? Who gives a shit about that? But at the same time, just don't get banned. Just play the game.
Well, my friend Juan says that you can appeal your ban down to 7 days, and a lot of people have already done this. So if you guys did get banned, I would definitely appeal. Maybe you'll get it reduced.
Yeah.
My our feral druid, he got 30-dayed, and then like 12 hours later, he just got the email saying like, "Whoops, you're unbanned."
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
I have players that got unbanned.
Most of the people that I have heard of, that's what happened. It's not even that, they had to go and appeal. It was just revoked.
We
I
talk,
mean,
about this
I
on,
know people appealed. Yeah.
we talk about this on deep dives because this is more than a deep dive. This is our podcast episode. And before each episode, we do intros and then we talk about the WoW news and then we go in the deep dive. Just like if it wasn't a deep dive, we'd go intros and then WoW news and then whatever the episode is about.
I also understand why people are concerned about that Blizzard post because, like, they said that like defending a flag if nobody's coming to attack it is not necessarily participating. I think that's kind of bullshit because
That part is crazy. That's the thing that
That was
I saw. I was like,
wildly
what
cringe.
the fuck?
Like,
I
have they
I
ever
tweeted
eradicated
that.
Wild.
Yeah, I was like, but okay, it also like hints that like if you were to stealth ninja a tower or like stealth back and take back a tower, since no one is coming with you, technically you're not playing as a team player because they're not also helping you do it. So therefore you are not actually participating the way it's meant to be played.
Which is crazy.
That was what?
I would not
It's
want to. I
wild.
would not want to play a Wrathy Basin right now because like, what is the number one way you screw up a Wrathy Basin is you ghost nodes, and nobody's gonna want to sit at nodes anymore.
Yeah.
There's people and right now I've been doing a lot of BGs and people not even sitting out there. They'll just leave LM open or something like that because they're just like, oh, cap and run because they're so scared to do it.
Yeah, you turn on the washing machine and you go in a big circle because it's really all you can do.
Yeah.
I'm over here scared out of the bathroom. I'm like running back and forth, like scared to AFK for more than 4 minutes in an AV while I was in the bathroom. It's crazy.
I mean, they have always historically been a little bit incompetent. Like one of my chatters says when it comes to banwaves, like either casting way too wide of a net or just letting things be so lax, like we saw with boosting and all kinds of like botting and instances and things like that, going all the way back to vanilla. You know, they're either too lax or they're way too strict, and there's like no middle ground.
Yeah. It is. They've got to release a statement about it. That's all my thought process is like there's no way they just leave it at whatever that post was. Like that was just that one line at the end of it though was just like they like doubled down on defending themselves and saying like a lot of these bans were on purpose. And he's like a lot of people are for sure AFKing though. 100%.
If he
it
just
happens
didn't
like
type
in
that
every
last
AV.
sentence, if he just didn't type that last sentence, it would be fine, right? It would
Yeah.
be mostly fine.
Yeah, I would have been like, yeah, okay, cool.
Here's the Reddit of how many people are AFKing right now. This is how bad it is. Like this guy's capping. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people in here.
that happened to me yesterday. I got fucking like knocked off by a druid that stealthed up and knocked me off, right? But there was 5 other people in the tower and they let him cap it.
Look at the left side when he moves. I didn't even see all them.
Oh yeah, there's literally like 10 people in this.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Tessa pet 9. That's crazy, bro.
People do that. People have been doing that for so long though, where they cap the tower and then they just alt tab.
All fucking dirty ass DKs too.
And then once the timer goes off that the towers burns, then they alt tab back in and go kill Van, right? Like
yeah. But those people are for sure the people also claiming for a lot of those people got unbanned and they were like, I was defending a tower. Yeah, so many of those people are for sure. They're mauling right now. Like
yeah, and they have like 0 damage on players. It's all just like PvE, like, you know, killing the guards as you go in.
If that, crazy, most of these guys, they literally just like I've seen this shit. They rush this specific tower and they just chill there. And then by the time that tower caps, you're pulling ban, and that's it. Like that's.
See, these guys, I'm glad they got banned. Fuck you guys. Play the game. You know what I mean? Play the game.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
it's
crazy
people,
that they're expending their
sure.
resources banning people like this rather than some of the things I feel like they could.
I think they didn't mean to expend very many resources, right? That was like the whole thing.
True.
Although
I hire data scientist, a good data scientist can find these patterns. The patterns that are supposed to be done with this and automate this type of system. The problem is that it's either being done incorrectly or they're doing things. I don't know. There's just things going wrong with that.
I also get the problem with AFKing in battlegrounds. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a problem, but like, is it worth doing 30-day bans in pre-patch when everybody's just getting free gear and just having fun and like it doesn't really matter?
Honestly, it should just work the way like the mute functionality works, which is you're just barred from entering battlegrounds for like 2 weeks.
Fair.
Yeah, right.
That's
there
fair.
you go.
Like instead like I mean, we won't even talk about the ban mute button that is in the game, but it should work like that where you're just barred from using battlegrounds for like a week or 2 weeks, and hell, include arenas just to kind of scrape all that together so you screw up people that are doing arena as well.
That would have been a good punishment because everyone's trying to get their shit in right now.
Yeah, I mean that's a good idea.
Ame though does make a good point. It's like banning people that are doing this like abusive behavior, while another like 15,000 people are in a 9-hour queue. Like you're in game, right? You're taking their spot in game. That makes sense in my eyes, you know.
I don't know
like,
what you
people
guys
are
are complaining
screwed.
about with queues. I'm over on the dad server, and it's fucking gravy.
Yeah, these queues are
Oh
a whole
man,
nother
it's
thing right now.
it's terrible. I mean, I've been telling my guild that these queues won't last because historically they've never lasted. They always go away at some point. They always ease off. And
Yeah,
okay, so they're gonna obviously they're milking server transfer money at the moment because you can only migrate to dead servers at the moment. So they're obviously milking the paid transfer a little bit, I think. And they're going to hit a point where the pressure is so high, they're going to open up transfers to other realms that are like medium pop and stuff.
yeah.
But like, it's obvious it's a big problem. Like, I don't even know if my guild's going to be able to raid tonight. We're supposed to do Sunwell. I don't even know if we're going to be able to get enough people together. I mean, obviously you can like 10-man it now, but
I have the issue on Gehenna's actually is one, obviously people are stuck in queue for like 4 hours or something right before raid, but the server until today's the first day the server's actually working, but the server literally is unplayable. Like you'll try to loot something, if one person tries to loot something, the entire raid will lag out. So you can't loot on trash, and everyone has to have auto pass on all loot, and one person has to, after the raid is like really far, try to loot it really fast and run away.
oh my lord.
If you're in open world, it takes about 2 minutes to loot anything, and you might lag out. You might DC also. The raid will DC. It takes 15-ish minutes to get back in, for everyone to get back in. If you die and release, you DC no matter what. It's like
This
the
is on
server.
what, Gehenna's?
Yeah, Gehenna's has been like fully unplayable until today. Today's the first day that they might have done something, but it's been like literally an unplayable server at any sort of close to peak times.
Is this even a
like,
problem that can be fixed by
Oh.
like buying better servers? Is this even like,
No,
a
this
problem?
is it's like I mean, a little bit. I think it's like some infrastructure issue, but I think it's also just various bugs that are cascading.
Yeah. That sounds
The-
more likely to me.
The fact that you have that many connections on a server at once, like sustained, is probably not helping the matter. So, there's a thing that I linked that it's you have Benediction and Grobulus have a queue that is the entirety of like the same size as the server itself.
Damn, you're right.
Oh my god.
That's crazy.
And
Holy hell.
this is I'm suspecting that they're gonna have to like do some sort of forced migration. Like I don't know how you fix this without saying, okay, we're gonna you get to choose server A or B and that's it. Like split the server up. I don't know, but you have an entire server sitting in queue right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you fix it without saying, okay, guild master, you get to choose where your guild's going, and that's it.
I know I'm
The
like
problem
secretly
with
hoping we transfer, but I doubt
The
it.
problem with free transfers is it's nice early to transfer to like another server. It feels nice, right? Like you can actually play the game, and then like a month, 2 months in, your server's dead. You can't recruit, and you need to go back. It's
and
this
nobody
really
has queues
double-edged
anymore.
sword. Yeah, and they've lost the queues while you're over here being like, at least you got to play the game for those first couple of weeks or something and didn't have to wait in the queues. Like, was it worth it? Because then you end up quitting the game. Like the lower servers end up actually like historically quitting the game generally, like from what I've seen. And this has happened in every single launch. I feel like there's got to be a better way. There's got to be something. I don't know, man.
Well, I mean, they let this problem get to this point by basically screwing up how they let people transfer servers, right? Like this was a problem all the way back in vanilla, right? When you had like 1 million people on Scarum, and by the way, Scarum forever, Scarum life, all my Scarum homies out there. I remember you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I wish I could go back to Scarum right now. But like, you know, on Scarum, you had they just let every single alliance on that server transfer off instead of like closing it after a certain point when the balance got really messed up. They should have just closed it off, but they refused to do stuff like that. So that's why you have these, you know, it just gets worse and worse and worse because they allow these servers to have only one faction and it's like a mega faction, or they allow you to transfer to these mega servers that are just insanely huge already. Like, how many people transferred to Benediction or Grob or Gehenna's in the last couple weeks? It's like a ton of people.
They accidentally opened up free transfers to Gehenna's. There was free transfers off
Holy
of
shit.
Firemaw because Firemaw was locked, right? They literally locked it so you couldn't even create characters on Firemaw. It was too big. So they gave free transfers off of Firemaw to like a random small server someone in chat would know. And then you had a free transfer from that dead server that had literally no one playing on it to Gehenna's. So you could free hop over to Gehenna's. So like literally like all of Firemaw's horde transferred over and to Gehenna's. All of them, everyone. Super lame.
Every time we talk about this, there's people who are like, "Yeah, you guys did this to yourself." With all the transfers, which I get to a degree, but at the same time, Blizzard can fix this. Bro.
People did it.
It doesn't matter that we did. In my opinion, it doesn't matter that we did this. We're all playing. This is your job, is to give us our game that we want. Like, unless I'm tripping, I just feel like that's Blizzard's job. Is to give us the game that we want to play. And if this is hindering us, then fix it. And they know how to fix it, and they don't. So
they successfully managed this kind of problem in 2007 and 2008. Like it wasn't. You know, this same problem existed, except for a mega server at that time was like 5,000 people, but it was still an issue, and like they managed it pretty well. So I don't know why they're having such a hard time this time around, but
I don't think they care enough.
I mean, I think that's also it, because like, I mean, Classic brings in a lot of subs, but it doesn't bring in that microtransaction money, so it still is just like dwarfed by the cash shop.
Exactly.
You know, and like
I think they don't
people.
care, dog.
I mean, I had a friend who interviewed for the Classic team in Vanilla, and he said there was literally a single-digit number of developers working on the game, like literally less than 10.
Yes.
That's just mind blowing.
They recently, though, at least they've recently they hired like something like 100 people to work on the Classic team recently. So they've been putting in work, and Blizzard has actually actively been trying to like make changes for the better. So like hopefully they'll do something. I know it's on their radar, the server shit.
I definitely feel something's happening with Blizzard where they are trying to like they're trying to improve Lich before it came out, and I feel that. But this is
I think they're expecting
right now, and I feel like this can be fixed already.
My understanding is a lot of people that were getting in the way, not just like in Classic, but retail as well, were a lot of like the old guard that they had a very specific vision and confidence in their vision, and it's been clearly not working, and a lot of those people have since moved on, is my understanding at least. So, without reading too much, I have heard that they have gotten a lot of new blood in, and a lot of people that like used to play the game but don't anymore because they didn't like the direction that it's gone. And that's why, like, I don't know how much you've followed some of the retail announcements, but that's why Dragonflight's going the way it is all of those changes are being driven by pretty much an entire new fresh blood of people.
I feel like I've been saying, I think that people always ask after Lich King, I think they're going to try to drive, I don't know if they're going to, it's just speculation purely, but I feel like they're going to try to drive us into retail. I feel like after Lich King, it's going to be like a move, which I'm going to be playing anyway, so it's like whatever, but I feel like after Classic, if they do a Kata Classic or something, it's going to be like garbage. I think they're going all, I think they're going all in right now with Classic Lich. Hey, it's not that bad, and we're doing this in retail, and then they get some people to play retail, which would be cool.
I would only be playing Kata to set up a Warlock for Mop, but you know why, Crix.
Yeah.
I think what they're going to do is they're going to, after Wrath is over, they're not going to do Kata. They're going to roll everybody into retail if they can, and they're going to go like a year or two, and then they're going to bring back fresh servers. They're going to go through the gambit again. They're going to go Vanilla, TBC, Wrath, and they're just going to keep that cycle going as long as it makes them money.
I think
because
they could
all the work is already done.
Do the Disney model. Fucking run it back.
I think they could, because if they, I mean, a lot of people would play Classic again, and especially if they change some of the things that people like they know they need to change, like Chrono Boom, whatever, you know.
The biggest problem with like SOM was that it came too early. People just finished playing Vanilla. They didn't want to play it again. If you released Classic like Vanilla SOM in like a year or two from now, people would play it again for sure. And like they did actually really good changes with the way that they made the bosses harder in SOM. Like sure, the player base like kind of fell off, but I think the way that they made the raids harder was actually really dope.
I got opinions on it.
I mean,
but mine's all just straight. Like I'm just the world buff shill. I'm like, you're not gonna, without any sort of a competitive scene at the top, the people get bored and stop playing. Even if you're never playing something competitively, like almost any multiplayer game falls off at the wayside if there's no sort of competitive scene within that multiplayer game.
You still need to have a good middle ground though is the other
Yeah,
thing.
exactly. You need it can't be like only catered to competitive players. That like kind of happened with like Overwatch. I think really
Right.
like lost a huge player base because they only listened to people maybe playing like at the highest level, or vice versa. It's got to be this like it's this balancing act that sucks, and like game dev is like got a lot of shit to deal with compared to like us players who like want our things. Like there's always gonna be the like outspoken few who just like when anything's wrong, those are the people who speak up in general, no matter what, right? If they don't like a aspect of the game, they're gonna fucking they're gonna make forum posts, they're gonna make Reddit. Yeah, but it's not though. I really think like we just see all of that because there's so many players and there's so many people that love to complain, but
they're
then,
the
like,
loudest ones, right?
Yeah, those are the loudest ones. You always hear about it because the people complaining are just like they're the ones talking about it. People that are happy with the game aren't posting all the time about like, oh, I'm so stoked about the direction of the game right now. This is really fun. You know, like no one fucking does that. I mean, maybe, but like once every like couple weeks, those don't blow up on
And
like
the minute
Reddit.
that you do that on Reddit, you just get flamed. Oh yeah,
for sure,
you're
dude.
fanboy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. By the way, Sarthe or anybody who hasn't playing, make sure you better check that queue. Make sure you stay in that queue, dog.
I fucking
don't fall out of that.
I'm 45 minutes, so it's whatever.
Oh,
I mean,
God.
as much shit as people give them and as many mistakes as they've made, I think they've done a pretty good job so far with all the classic expansions. I really thought they did a pretty good job with TBC. I'm not gonna lie, like there were some issues, but
I could agree with you.
I mean, I think
they're at a good direction right now too. Go ahead.
Right now with Wrath, the only like other than the two issues that have come up like this week, I think that everything's been going well. But I don't know. They seem to be a lot. I think they seem to be a lot more communicative with, or they're doing more communication with this than I've ever seen them do with Classic. Which is
massively! I'm hyped with how it's turning. Yeah, they're involved. They're
definitely listening and they're involved. There's just some little things they have to fix, but I think outside. I mean, if you look at outside the queue and outside of, like the bands and stuff, they're kind of. I don't have too many complaints to be honest. Right now, at least. Well, I'm glad we talked about that. You guys are the first people who wanted to talk about the news besides Sarthe and I, so I really appreciate that.
Yeah. I'm always like, it's always like my time to like just like rant at the beginning of our deep dives.
So now getting into more of the Ret talk though, or to start it. How is, and I have no idea. How's Ret on the beta? What is your?
Why don't you start, Terryn? Why don't you start?
So Ret is a mixed bag. A lot of the issues I think that have been coming out of the beta, frankly, have to do with the fact that the level 80 gear that Ret has been given is actually absurdly terrible. Like I don't know of any other class that has it quite this bad, and so a lot of people that didn't went in or do raid testing didn't go in with any better gear and all that. So that's where some of the issues are coming in. The single target damage elephant in the room is it's not the best. Obviously, it's frankly about is the same place that we were in TBC. The difference is that Ret's AoE is actually comically good. Like right now, I on just like trash and stuff, I'm keeping up with warlocks if they're not in demo and immolating. Like it's actually pretty good.
In 25-man situations or 10-man?
25-man.
Oh shit! Yeah, there we go.
Like I mean, like I'm not like neck and neck with them, but like it's like warlocks and then Ret is like number 2. When AoE is, or when their MOR is or not. So that's a huge thing. The other thing is that when you go into 25-man, the Ret Paladin actually brings a lot of utility when you're going to be dropping healers. Like in a speedrun situation especially, you're going to be dropping healers. Like I think like 3 healing max is pretty likely at the moment. And in that point, you still want to be able to have your divine sack. Now, Ret can't really bring raid sack without sacrificing a lot of damage. And we'll go into that later, but there's a lot of other things like the group sack, which would apply to tanks, just regular sack, cleansing, a lot of other basic utility that the Ret brings. And then there's also just the general buff situation where eventually mages want to go arcane or want to leave arcane, and rogues want to go to combat, and those are the two main classes that are providing buffs that Ret also provides that would be swapping away from those buffs. So like that's some of the other things. So it's fine. I'm pretty confident that you'll pretty much always want to bring a Ret. I don't know what Sarthe's opinion is on that. I think he's kind of in the
I love Ret.
I feel like
can
you'd bring
say
one
that.
still, yeah. Even
I
if
can
just not
I
for
can say
replenishment.
that. I know guilds looking at like world first and stuff are potentially, it's up in the air. But look at that, like in the background, right? Like Ret's AoE is crazy. Ret on trash.
Yeah.
Oh my god, dude. Once you get spin to win and you could just divine storm like crazy too, like that shit is gonna be like the most unreal. I'm holding out that Ret is like the sleeper.
But
Late
like
game.
I'll show you. We did high gel last night just for shits and giggles, and you have like 3 warlocks and then Ret, and then the next one up is like your mages. But I was quite ahead of the mages, and it's kind of crazy. And high gel is like the
Terryn's now #1 in the world for Rets and Hygel, just for shits and giggles.
Yep.
Nice.
But it's pretty good for trash, and obviously like Nax trash. The other thing that I'm seeing is like the Nax trash dies so fast. Like, how many seeds are you really going to be able to get off during that? Whereas Ret is just always on. It's your damage is 1 global, and you've lit up Divine Storm on everything, right?
It's a
And
snap.
you never,
it's snap
you
AoE
never
too.
drink.
It's burst AoE. We have to cast a seed or two before we can get it.
Right. So like when you're in that blender situation where maybe you're not able to do gigapulls because they're just spread out enough, well, Ret's going to be running with your tanks at all time and able to just blast that damage. I mean, it's like the same thing as like what warriors were able to do in Sunwell, is you're just always able to have cleave turned on, have whirlwind on, and just go. And you don't have to stop to pass, you don't have to stop to drink because the mana is really good. So no, I think that it's gonna be good. The elephant in the room single target. I'm personally a little worried about Old War. Because there's just not as much trash there. And I don't think that cleaving on the 4 bosses where that's gonna be relevant is. I'm not sure if that's gonna be good enough, but I don't know yet.
Does Ret, if Ulduar gear gets buffed like they announced, they're looking at buffing Ulduar gear. If Ulduar gear gets buffed, I know that helps classes like warriors, a lot of the melee physical DPS classes, but Ret uses a lot of magical damage. Do they see any sort of large gain there, or is it like this is something for much later also, but like, yeah.
The issue with Ret is Ret has actually pretty dismal scaling the way things are right now, because we don't get any resources off of haste, right? So like warriors, they deal damage fast, they get more rage, right? Because they're attacking faster. Rogues, same thing. Mages just have more cast, and like all their damage is coming from cast. Ret goes, so from TBC going into Wrath, Ret goes from like 85% of your damage coming from your auto attack to about 33.
Wow.
Well, and that's because like back in,
that's huge.
Well, I mean, it's that we had a metric fuck ton coming from it in TBC because of like twisting, whirlwind, or not whirlwind, wind fury, and all this other stuff, right? So like we scaled absurdly well with haste in TBC, but in Wrath, it's only about 33% because like all of your damage is coming from all these other buttons. Consecrate actually deals damage. Exorcism actually scales. You get Crusader Strike proc seals, and like, so all these other things are going on. And then in Old War, the issue is that we don't have, our set bonuses don't actually help with any of that. So like in Trial, your deep wound, Ret has a deep wounds effect, and that deep wounds can crit with the, or one of those set bonuses, I don't remember off my head. The deep wounds can crit with your set bonus there, so that helps with like crit scaling, so that helps with some of the scaling issues. And then you get the obviously the machine gun Divine Storm in ICC, and that helps with haste actually being more effective than just bumping up that 33%. As Serve discovered, it actually helps us go out of mana as well, so that's fun.
You're fucking pumping. Wait a minute. This is kind of crazy. I've never actually seen it from a rep perspective.
Dude, it's so much fun playing
Oh,
with trash.
It's so fun.
Is there thread issues? Do you have just curious?
Oh,
do you
yeah.
have any thread issues on AoE?
Oh, there's plenty of thread issues, but if you have a good paladin tank, you're fine.
Okay.
The other threat issues come with the fact that we have a button off GCD that does damage and unfortunately also taunts the mob. So,
yeah. So if you want to min-max, you got to be taunting all the time.
We'll get to that later. So again, going into Old War, I don't know how much that's going to help Ret. I think the thing that helps Ret the most from that change is the fact that Fire Mages might actually be fully online by that point, which means you don't have the Arcane Mage, which then means you need the Ret to provide that buff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my soapbox, I guess, on Ret. I don't know, Serve, do you have any other?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, you and me have talked about a lot of this stuff over the last few days, and I think we pretty much share the same views on everything. I think there's a lot of people that come into Light Club Discord and they'll just be like, Ret's trash now, and there's no reason to bring one, no reason to play it. But I think that that's really just not true. I mean, there's obviously issues with scaling, and there's not as much single target maybe as there was with late Sunwell gear. But it's really not as bad as people are making it out to be. Like, I don't think that Ret's gonna be like a dead class, like unviable, like people were doing with Boomkin.
You're not stacking them. You're not stacking.
You're not gonna stack
at all.
them.
No. You will have one for sure. If you have one, you'll definitely have one. But like, you're not bringing two. But I think you'll bring one.
Feels bad because in Sunwell we were bringing two because of the the buffs. You're like, because Holy Paladin was so bad.
Yeah, and you could just tank KJ, but now Holy Paladin's so good, and you actually might want to bring two. So,
I also think the other reason why Ret's more safe in at least Nax is because our boy Zyrene's on the prop warrior hype train and is getting people at least off of prop paladin for like the first tier, and you still want to have 3 paladins, so
you do.
Yeah, and I know this is something we were going to talk about a little bit later. I have it written down in the notes, but like, a good Ret is not just providing DPS. A good Ret is, you have open GCDs where you can like literally just heal people with your instant cast Flash of Lights. You can, take 20% threat off of somebody. If they're getting too high on threat, you just remove 20% of their threat if you want with your salve buff. You can, you got all kinds of utility you can use there. We have like a shield wall now. You can actually tank ads on boss fights and like maybe survive. There's or on trash. Like I've tanked a lot of trash and prepatch, and obviously it's like pretty nerfed now. But like in a dungeon, you can just tank shit.
The damage increase to tank shit because you can taunt things off of people and boost your damage that way.
Yeah. So I mean, Ret is more than just the DPS. The DPS is definitely like a big part of the conversation, but like there's more than just the blessings too in terms of like utility. Like having DSAC and having a blessing of salve for the raid is actually like really big. And if you're a really good Ret, you're gonna take those times in your rotation where you have nothing to cast, and you're gonna be Flash of Light healing people. And we have like a ton of crit with our spells because like crit is shared between melee and spells now. And every time we crit, it gives you like a hot that heals another 60% of that heal over 12 seconds.
And that hot ignites, so it'll roll if you get 2 of them.
Yeah.
Oh,
so like you're just throwing out instant cast Flash of Lights and like stacking hots up. Like like the other day I soloed Tiger Boss. Well, I didn't solo it. I did it with a mage friend, but like I was just self-healing myself as Ret the whole time. Just instant cast Flash of Light, Seal of Light, easy peasy.
You can solo almost every 5-man dungeon right now as Ret. Like in just regular Ret gear and sword and board. You can solo that. And then you can solo MC or at least a couple of MC bosses to start farming your bindings already, like at 70. So there's a lot of fun stuff you can do, but yeah, I
saw Moby1, who's a fellow OG. He used to, he's been making Paladin videos since like 2006, 2007. We had him on the Pally podcast a few times, but he's been coming out with videos about how to solo all these different raid bosses. Like he made a Gar video, how to solo Gar as Ret, and how to solo Tiger Boss as Ret. So if anybody's interested in doing that, you should go check it out. And you don't really have to, like, I know a lot of people when they do that stuff, they do the bug abuse and they like despawn the ads and stuff, but you don't have to do that. You can do it without doing that easily. So if you're concerned about that, don't even worry about it.
You can link his stuff too if you have it. I'll try to find it too while you guys are talking.
Okay, sure, yeah, sure.
Well, with that, are people going like prot ret? Because I know when leveling, it's so nice when you're leveling as prot, you're actually leveling in ret spec for the most part. So like, is it a full ret spec you're doing? And then also, I have a question about like heal rets, like Rugs.
No.
Rugs obviously made the video. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No, that is not a thing.
Okay, I want to shoot it down now. Then.
Wait,
No.
what's not a thing?
Healing
ret,
healing 5-man dungeons.
Oh
while
yeah,
playing
no,
ret.
that's not.
Oh,
I mean,
no.
I can. Okay, so as
Heal
just my
Reddit in?
normal, as
Yeah.
just my normal ret spec, like I can just judge light and you'd use my exorcism or my art of wars to instant cast flash of light, and like I can just heal you like that. I don't need to go any weird spec or anything like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'll
Can you
do
heal
I'll
a
do
full-
just enough
full
healing.
dungeon?
If you're
yeah.
doing
Oh,
like
yeah.
Nexus spam as 4 DPS, like yeah, okay, your healer can be a ret, especially if you've got like a physically immune tank, which is pretty easy to do. But I mean, is it good? I don't know.
If you're
I'm not,
doing
I'm
like
not an advocate for it.
I mean, that's
if you're
what I
doing
was
like
doing.
heroics, you can't like heroics at 80. You're not gonna be able to do it. but-
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No.
Because
This is
that's
like
what I was
a
doing leveling for my
spec.
DK group. Even we had a heal
Yeah.
ret in our DK group, and it was so much faster. He was doing like almost 1.2k on every pull, and it was like we were just clearing slave pens in like 9 minutes.
Yeah, I mean it's a thing when you're leveling, but outside of that, it's no. You're not doing that when you're doing heroics. At least things just do too much AOE damage.
Good to know. Do you guys use with that? Do you guys use like a mouse over macro that you use for your Art of War procs that you just like when you get a free flash? Because like I used to do that
yeah.
when I used to play Ret a lot. Yeah, just to like help out.
Yeah, I have a I have like a link that we'll put in the description that has like a bunch of macros that you might want for playing Ret. It includes like a mouse over macro that you can adjust for whatever spells. Like you should have your hand spells on a mouse over macro, so you can give Hand of Salve to the raid or whatever.
Mhm.
And Flash of Light obviously should be a mouse over, and also Hammer of Wrath you probably want on a mouse over, because when you're cleaving stuff down, you can't really target the thing that's in execute range, so you just mouse over it and throw your hammer.
Pretty nice actually.
But
go
yeah,
ahead,
I mean,
go ahead.
just like for leveling dungeons, like you could heal as Ret if you were just doing like Nexus and Ankahet and stuff. Like you could be the healer for Ret, but like it's not going to be a super viable thing at 80 in heroics and things like that.
Divine Storm heals for a non-insignificant amount of damage when you're leveling.
Divine
Yeah.
Storm heals.
Yes,
Yeah,
it heals
25%.
Yep. So when you're cleaving for like 2.5k on 4 things, that 25 that damage actually adds up a little bit when you're leveling.
And it's a smart heal, so it goes to the people that are the lowest.
By 80, that's not really as relevant, just because HP pools versus damage out goes like way out of whack compared to what we have in TBC or like for pre-patch. But early on, like when I was doing like some of my solo leveling testing, I would get a Divine Storm, like with wings and everything. Divine Storm would heal me by half.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
it's
amazing.
really
Yeah.
nice. It's really nice. So like that's also a helpful thing for this, but like that's more of just like a very niche leveling thing.
Yeah. You're much better off having a real healer for sure. Just because then you can just go full ham and not have to use all your Art of War procs on Flash of Light and do all kinds of stuff like that. So
Yeah.
do we want to go over the stat prio? Because I know you talked a little bit earlier about haste. I have a little thing written down about stat prio. I know people like to compare stats 1-to-1 for like gemming and stuff, but
Go ahead.
Yeah.
so like our stat prio changes quite a bit in Wrath. Previously, we did about 65% of our damage was physical, so our pen wasn't terrible. There was like an Arpen set that was equal to another Biss set in Sunwell, so Arpen wasn't terrible. It was pretty good. But Arpen just falls off a cliff in Wrath because so much more of our damage is spells, as Terryn
Like
already mentioned.
60%.
Yeah, like a huge portion. Like Consecrate actually does damage now. Exorcism is like one of our hardest hitting spells. That can't, that is obviously a spell, and then Judge is also a spell, and that always crits, like almost always crits. It hits pretty hard. So I think that Arpen is basically falling off a cliff. Haste is not as bad as some people think. It's about 1 AP per haste rating right now, according to the stat weights we have. Just early data. So like every haste rating is 1 AP at level 80. Not at level 70, but level 80. And then crit is like a little bit better than that at like 1.2 or 1.1 AP per crit. Expertise is still pretty good. Now, Consecrate can't dodge, so and Exorcism can't dodge, and I don't think Judge can dodge either.
Judge cannot dodge. Seal of Vengeance doesn't have an extra dodge roll either. That was the other thing. So like in TBC, if you got a good twist off, there were like 6 instances where that could all be dodged, which is why Expertise was so wildly overvalued for us. Or not overvalued like we were doing it wrong, but like it was so absurdly high valued.
Yeah.
But so Seal of Vengeance, the damage component of that cannot be dodged, whereas the Seal Command one does. I have a whole thing about Seal of Vengeance. It's like a weird ability. It's got a lot of weird rules, but yeah. So that's just the main thing. Is like seals cannot. Your single target seal can't be dodged, or it doesn't have an extra dodge roll on it.
Yeah. Does Command? You said Vengeance, right? Yep. Does Command have a dodge roll?
It does. It
definitely
does.
Okay, so it's good on Cleave. It's better on Cleave. But also on Cleave, though, it's going to get worse in some ways because Consecrate becomes more of your damage. It actually does damage now. And Consecrate obviously can't dodge. So there's like a give and take there with that. Like some of your stats will change a little bit on Cleave. Like Haste will get a little bit better because of Seal of Command. Like it's going to increase your seal damage because Seal of Command cleaves now. Or like hit, a little bit of hit past the cap is not so bad because the spell hit cap is higher than the melee hit cap, so it might help you with partial resists on like Consecrate and stuff. And then crit is going to scale a little bit worse if you have like more than 4 mobs, because that's when Consecrate takes over, like damage wise. So like we have a little bit of a different prio for Cleave and single target. Like there's some things changed there in terms of what spells to prio and what stats to prio. But in general, the stat prio is like strength is number 1, totally the best stat. You always want to maximize your strength. You don't even gem anything else. Like if you're under hit cap, you don't even gem hit. You just gem strength all the way. I mean, you can gem hit. It's not a huge damage loss, and it's consistency.
More consistent, yeah.
But like, strength is the go-to. And then right under strength, you have hit, which is the second best stat. Not super far behind strength. Expertise is right below that. And then expertise is like never going to be viable to gem. Even I tried it out on the sim in like phase 5, and it's just never worth gemming over strength. So I know a lot of people on private server did that to get to expertise cap, but that's just not something you're gonna want to do. So it's like strength, hit, expertise, crit, haste, and then Arpen is like way at the bottom. And then every spell power you get is also worth about 0.4 AP or somewhere around there.
And then one last thing, agility and crit are pretty much equal. It's almost the same value after kings, the agility providing crit versus crit rating. So that's just another thing to note. Like they're basically equal stats.
Yeah, and I have a quick question. I wasn't actually sure. I couldn't find an answer to this when I was looking earlier, but the agility, when it converts to crit, does it also convert to spell crit now that they're both like interconnected?
No.
Okay.
No. So exorcism is on non-undead is the only time that's relevant.
Oh yeah, and, okay. Or what about judge? I guess judge always crits anyway, right?
Judge is a physical. No, judge is a physical crit.
Exorcism on undead is physical then?
It's like ranged, right? It's like considered ranged.
It's a range. It's like it's a ranged attack. So it's weird. Judgment's weird. Judgment's a whole can of words, but it's basically like a hunter ranged attack is how it's flagged.
But you said it's just when it's against non-undead targets?
So yeah, exorcism always crits.
Crit.
on a undead or demon. Like it's always going to crit. It's like part of the mechanic of the spell, so it doesn't really scale there. But
yeah.
That was
your rogues are pumping just now.
Dude, rogues are
Is this pre-patch?
So good.
Yeah, this
What
is
are your warlocks
rogues
doing
are
on Brutals, bro?
Did you really?
half or something?
You really did the sack on the encapsulate?
well, I'm in a gold DKP. They pay me to do it, so
Wait, what happened?
they pay me to do
damage.
it.
It doesn't do damage. He
Yeah,
did
it
a
does
DI
nothing.
and pre
Dude, they asked me to, so and I went home with 4K, sold a BNS for 80K, so I was happy.
80K?
80K BNS. And it was a DK against a rogue, and the DK crapped out at like 78K, and the rogue took it for 79.
Jesus Christ.
Love it.
Yeah, it's pretty
Love
great
to
run.
see that.
Shout
Yeah,
out
that's
to
crazy.
my boy Raz. Runs the best gold DKPs on Fairlena. If you guys want to get into the best gold DKPs
Raz is
ever,
a
make the
weird
most
guy.
money.
There he goes.
Raz is a
Hit up
weird
Raz.
guy.
80K in pre-patch,
That's a lot of
dude. Get
fucking
the
gold,
fuck
dog.
out of
That
here.
is a lot of
know.
gold.
I mean, I feel like the value of these items are gonna drop off a little because like you can just pick anybody into the raid and clear it now. But yeah, day one, big money.
So,
Insane, dude. Oh
That's
my
so
god.
much gold.
I'm blown away by that
I did want to say that crit will go up in value in tier 9 in TOGC because of the deep wounds set bonus.
Because it can create,
Yeah. So you're getting like double scaling off that crit because you're actually getting the deep wounds applied and it crits. So and then haste goes up a good bit with the
tier 10.
ICC. Yeah. Those are the big things. Armor pen is like always dog
Garbage.
It is so bad for us because of so much of our damage just ignores armor anyways.
Do we want to go into? I know you have some stuff written out for each phase about how Ret is gonna do. Do you just want to go through that real quick?
I can just very quickly touch on that. So
Perfect.
like in phase 1, first of all we get bonus damage against undead. You're talking like about 1% bonus damage helps. The biggest thing right now is that rogues and mages are providing the same buff as us because most rogues will be assassination, most mages will be arcane. Ret provides 3% damage, which arcane and BM hunter provides. I don't think we're gonna ever see a BM hunter in competitive scene, Sarthe.
Never.
No?
Literally
So,
never.
Arcane Mage is kind of like the main competitor for the 3% damage buff that's provided by our auras. Assassination Rogue and I believe the Ellie Shaman Totem provide the 3% crit debuff. If I remember right, I can't remember for certain.
Ellie Shaman provides a 3% crit totem to. Oh wait, no, it's
Crit
haste.
haste.
Crit haste.
Crit hit
But it's
is
a buff,
Totem of Wrath.
not the
Yeah.
debuff.
You're talking
Yeah.
about Totem of Wrath.
Yeah, it's a debuff. So they also provide the 3% crit debuff that Assassination Rogue provides. So the biggest issue with like phase 1 and honestly phase 2 maybe is that most rogues will still be assassination, so they're going to have that debuff up. And then most mages will be arcane, which means that buff will be up. So and then you're almost always going to have a Moonkin, which will provide the 3% haste, and I think they always spec into that because they get something out of it. The thing with Ret is the haste buff is just that's all it does for the talent. It doesn't actually provide us anything, so you might see people specking out of that a little bit. But in phase 1 and 2, both of those buffs are up, so like you're not necessarily going to be good for the buff. I talked about the cleave damage is absolutely absurd. There's a lot of trash in Nax, and we have a good damage profile for that because it's just on. It's like Frost Death Knight versus Unholy Death Knight, right? Like Unholy's gonna spend like 6 GCDs getting spun up on trash, and then if anything moves out of its D&D, like that's a third of your damage gone. Versus Frost, where you chuck 2 obliterates or not obliterate the
Howling Blast.
Yeah. You chuck 2 Howling Blasts, and like that's your load, but like that's a lot of damage in 2 GCDs. Ret's kind of the same thing, where you got Divine Storm, CS, Holy Wrath does a decent amount of damage, and it has a stun component, which is nice. So Ret's got a good damage profile, at least for the trash. The bosses are gonna die real fast, so I don't know how effective we are going to be there. Phase 2 is probably going to be Ret's weakest phase, because you're still going to have you're probably still going to have Assassination Rogue. You're probably still going to have Arcane Mages, although if their crit hits high enough, you might see more fire, which will be helpful. And so from there, there's not as much trash. So you have Seal of Cleave is good. Command Cleave is good on Polygarn, or the Cat Lady, Mimiron, Phase 4, Freya, and Thorum. And I don't know if it's good enough damage on those fights to make it worth it for the Ret, to bring the Ret for damage specifically. So from there, you're kind of relying on just, do you have enough, or do you need the pally slot? Like, do you need the group sack? Do you need tank sack? Do you need the extra healing here and there?
Blessing.
Yeah, the extra blessing slot, things like that. So phase 3 is, you're definitely going to see more fire mages. You're definitely going to see more combat rogues. So that's a plus. And then on top of that, the crit scaling kind of gets engaged, and you're going to see the Ret damage goes up a good bit in TOGC. Especially because there's a lot of really nicely itemized leather gear in TOGC, so that's even better. And then in phase 4, you get Chain Divine Storm, which is just absurdly good.
Yeah, that's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, I think I think that is one of the craziest, in a speedrun perspective. That's one of the craziest set bonuses ever. That like all your huge AoE ability just resets all the time. It's just like bing 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 bing.
Yeah, and it's a significant buff on single target too, because it's one of our hardest hitting abilities. It's not normalized either, so like some of the slower weapons are going to really benefit from DS.
Yeah, it's one of the only instant cast like melee abilities, like Sinister Strike or whatever, that is not normalized. So slow weapons will really chunk with that. The other thing about that, and I don't remember if it finally got changed, but for when that set bonus first came out, it was also proccing off of seals, and so Seal of Command Cleaves would proc it, so it would just literally always be up when you're on trash, and you're just chain Divine Storming. It was probably the most fun thing
If that's
ever.
the case, it's
in original.
I don't think that's gonna be the case. That's crazy.
I don't think so either, but we can pray.
It's truly nuts, man. Really crazy. By the way, we have like a huge thing of Ret info that we're going over for the podcast, and I'm sure it'll be in the description. If you guys want to check it out, it's got all the info that will be from today's episode. So,
you know what? One thing we haven't touched on yet, but I'm really curious about, is all of the ways that Ret changes from TBC into Wrath of the Lich King.
Oh, yeah, we can go through all
this
that.
This is the juice, yeah.
Like the spells
there.
or
just
everything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So for starters, twisting is dead, like effectively dead. The mechanic itself is still in play. However, you don't have the GCDs to swap between the two. The most you have is you might twist, like I was doing on Muru, and it was pretty fun, where you'll swap to command when the ads come out for the cheeky cleave, and then swap back to keep your dot going, so that your judgment will still keep hitting hard. But like even that, we've been simming, and it's not great. It just
it's only like, yeah, it's only like when there's a cleave situation that shows up and is like for a short amount of time and doesn't take so long that you lose your dot, and that you don't have to swap seals like while you have Divine Storm up or whatever. Like it depends what spells you have up when you have to swap seals.
Right.
So it does take a GCD, and it costs a lot of mana.
Right. So traditional seal twisting is dead. Wind Fury is gone, so that's a lot of auto attack damage. So what instead happened is we get a lot of buttons that we can actually use that deal damage. All of our buttons, Exorcism, Judgment, Consecrate, all scale. Those 3 buttons all scale off of both attack, power, and spell damage now.
Wow,
you get a talent. And then you get a talent that converts attack power to spell damage. So that helps with your off healing, as well as further buffs those abilities. And then major mechanics, we get Divine Storm. Crusader Strike is a much shorter cooldown. Judgment, our seals have been completely reworked. You don't have to recast them after every judgment. So it's just a 30-minute buff that stays up. They're not dispellable except for Blood Elf Corruption. As of the recording of this video, is still a magic debuff, so that's neat. If you see a Blood Elf with Corruption up in a battleground, just dispel the shit out of it and piss them off. So the seals are not consumed when you judge, and then blood is gone. What was it, Martyr? I think for Alliance.
Yeah,
I don't play
it's
them.
kind of rolled into Vengeance now.
Yeah, so instead, Vengeance, the way Vengeance used to work is you had a chance to proc it, and now it always procs. It has a dot. Again, that dot scales with spell damage and attack power, and then it has a 33% damage component once you hit 5 stacks. It scales up from 1 to 5 stacks. But that damage component can crit, it cannot dodge or miss. And then the judgment, when you have that up, hits for a lot.
Which seals and judges are people using?
So most Rets will do Wisdom because the Holy Paladins really like to pad the healing meters with Judgment of Light, even though Judgment of Light is a percent HP of the person attacking, and it's not like a spell damage coefficient or anything. The seal is, so like if you're auto attacking and you have the seal light up, the heal from that has a spell damage component, but the judgment itself is only 2% of the attacking person's hit health.
Okay.
But Holy Paladins like to pad their meter.
I know there's like Reds that want to
busted
snipe it on like Saffron or something.
You want to snipe it to piss off the Holy Paladin. That's always good fun. But and then there's Judgment of Justice, which has the movement buff negation effect, so you're capped at 100% move speed, or just at like your base movement speed, and then that's it. Those are the 3 judgment debuffs, and they're different spells. And then the damage component of those spells is based on whatever seal you have active. So then you have, for Ret, you have Seal of Vengeance for single target, Seal of Command for cleave, and then in PvP you'll often use Righteous so that you're not breaking CC from Seal of Cleave. Because that cleave is an absurd range.
Yeah, Seal of Righteousness hits less hard on autos, but it hits a lot harder on Judge, so it makes it really good for bursting.
Yeah. Also, Righteous cannot crit, if I remember right. The seal, the damage component,
I'm pretty sure that's
judgment,
true.
the judgment can crit, but I don't think the seal can crit.
Seal of Wisdom and Seal of Light are mostly for like Seal of Light. The only time you're really going to use that is like when you're doing solo content, like soloing an old boss or something, or soloing some dungeon. Seal of Wisdom is like going to be useful in PvP if you're totally but otherwise like there's no reason to use it because you're going to have Divine Plea and Judgment of Wisdom. You're just never going to go Every time you judge, you get 25% of your base mana back. So like there's just, you never are going to need Seal of Wisdom. And Seal of Justice had kind of a use in TBC where you could twist it. You could twist command into Justice and like stun people on a moment's notice and like kind of throw a wrench in their plans, like if they're healing or something. But like now that it's a 30-second buff and it costs so much, or 30-minute buff and it costs so much mana, and you can't you can twist into it, but it's not really viable. I don't think it's really going to have much of a use in PvP anymore, so I don't think you're going to see people using it.
It is on a different DR from your Hammer of Justice, so that's like the only puff.
But it shares with
plus.
It shares with Mace Stun and Kidney?
Does it share with
or
like
no, not
Kidney?
Kidney.
I
think
don't think
it's
it
Mace Stun and there's one other thing that it shares with, but
yeah, I think there's like an RNG stun category, and they kind of
yeah, for sure. Maybe
it
Impact?
shares with they're saying it shares with Cheap Shot.
Cheap Shot. Okay, yeah, Cheap Shot's on a different one from Kidney, right?
Yeah,
So that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, it is handy for that.
Mm-hmm.
But is it good? Not really.
So for PvE, just like single target, straight up Vengeance and Cleave Command.
Yeah, so on 2 targets, there's a little bit of flexibility there. Like if it's shorter than 2 minutes, it's better to use Command. If it's longer than 2 minutes, it's better to use Vengeance and stack it on both targets and keep it going on both targets.
Oh wow!
You got some
like
buttons
for
to press.
Is that ever a situation though? Realistically, right? Like
I
what
don't know.
ad would live for 2 minutes other than in
Valkyrie.
Ulduar?
You have to
Twin
ask Terryn.
Valkyr.
I'm not very familiar with the Wrath bosses, so you'd have to ask Terryn about
So
that, I guess.
Twin Valkyr, it'll be useful.
Yeah. So later.
I think that's it though, because I think every other fight where you would consider it, cleave is just better. Mimiron phase 4 is definitely cleave because cleave can hit the head as well.
Yeah.
Nothing comes to mind in Nax. So yeah, I think it's like literally twins.
Yeah, because I think even with in Uldwar, I forget the name, but the boss with the 3 ads that you separate, they're separated, so like you're not keeping that
Iron
up.
Council.
Iron Council, yeah.
So for the most part, you're gonna want to use command on cleave situations because like the use case where vengeance is going to be actually better on a 2-target fight is going to be like very rare, right? So
Council, you'd you'd still use vengeance, and council you might stack. You might like swap to the big guy to your last target ahead of time just to get that vengeance stacked up. Like that's something you might do, but like even then you're not doing that for damage because they heal.
They heal out, yeah,
after. Yeah, so you're just doing that so that your burst is online.
One of those things like twins where you just don't do anything unless it's like a corruption, like Nightfall or something.
Right. Yeah. Twins. You'll want to stack it on both just to, if you're tanking them on top of each other. I know I'm pretty sure that's what we did when we did it back in the day. And you'll want to keep it stacked on both of them for that. But I think that's the only time that matters.
Yeah.
Every other time, it's either we're tunneling the boss or we're cleaving things, and it's a very clear decision.
Yeah, and then like also like in dungeons, if you have like some of those like sentry mobs that are just like one mob with a decent amount of health, they live like less than 15 seconds. You're gonna want to use like Seal of Righteousness instead of Vengeance because you're not gonna be able to get it stacked up in time, and Righteousness will just be better. So that's for like very short, less than 15 seconds, single target. Mostly not going to be used in PvE, maybe on like trash pools where it's just like one sentry, if you kill them fast. But that's for the most part its use case in PvE, which is not very limited. So I mean, in dungeons, if you're doing a dungeon farm and you're killing the dungeon bosses at the end, like it's going to be your go-to seal in that case because they die so fast. But otherwise, you're not really going to use it in PvE too much.
Even then, you might.
That was righteous, right? Seal of Righteous.
Yeah,
Seal of Righteous.
Yeah, even then, cleave it feels better overall. The
I think command in a dungeon is just crazy, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. If there's
he's just referring. He's referring to the bosses. Like there's still like ads and stuff, but if you're hitting just a single single target boss, like righteous will probably end up being better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think. So I guess the only other stuff we haven't talked about is Hammer of Wrath instant cast now. Doesn't reset your swing timer. Almost always crits, so it's really good. Hits for like 4K right now in prepatch. Pretty great. Also scales with AP. And
execute timer, right?
And spell power. Oh yeah, big execute. You're gonna want to have your time to kill weak auras telling you how long you have until the boss dies, so you can save your wings for execute because you're gonna want to use wings during execute if you can. Obviously, you want to use it with lust too, but your second wings.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you?
So wings
pair it with lust at the opener.
Oh, absolutely. No. Wings is a 2-minute cooldown with talents, and it's off the GCD, which is really nice because it was on GCD and TBC, and that was really annoying. But it pairs up with like your 2-minute trinkets and stuff really nicely, which is cool. But you'll want to do your second wings under lust.
What was wings CD in Wrath?
3 minutes.
3. In TBC
that's a really good change. That's an awesome change.
So also, it only puts your bubble on cooldown for 30 seconds instead of the full minute for Forbearance, which is huge for Brutalis.
Yeah. What you mentioned Divine Storm, and like that's like my most exciting ability moving into Wrath for Ret Paladins. But like if anyone doesn't know Ret or anyone like new to the class, that's like the most exciting ability in my eyes. Could you just like kind of describe it and how it's used?
Divine Storm is Whirlwind, but better. It because it's not normalized. Whirlwind's normalized, so it's a 3.3 weapon speed whereas Divine Storm is not. So if you have a 3.7, it's hitting with that 3.7 speed. And then on top of that, it will proc seal effects, because all melee attacks will proc seal effects. So
Even the cleave effects?
No,
Not the
no.
cleave.
I was like, oh my god.
For Vengeance, it will proc the seal effect if the target already has a dot on it. So if you have Seal of Vengeance ticking on both targets, the Divine Storm will hit both targets for that extra 33%. And then for command, it will proc one instance of the command attack. So it won't proc the cleave effect because that would be like 12 command procs off that one button, which would be a little bit broken.
That's like normal, yeah.
It's fine. It's listen, it's like sweeping strikes, okay? It's fine.
Yeah.
But then it'll proc righteous, it'll proc righteousness normally, it'll proc wisdom normally, it'll proc light normally, and it'll proc justice stuns as well. So that's cool. I think that's the main thing. Oh, also it'll heal you for it'll heal somebody smartly for 25% of the healing or of the 25% of the total damage done. When you're solo, this is like a quarter to a third of your health if you have 4 targets. And then if you have wings up, it's like half. Wings also buffs healing output as well, which is
Oh, I didn't even know that. That's crazy.
only
Yeah,
it's
30%,
it's a
right?
it's a little relevant for Ret. It's wildly relevant for Holy, because you can just dunk heals into a tank, or 2 tanks for that matter.
Probably
but-
nice in PvP when you pop wings and you might have to get like a insta flash out or something.
Yeah. I don't remember if it affects the divine whatever the skill that we can do. I don't remember if it affects that, but and how the snapshotting for that works. Like if you have to recast the field.
Yeah, I don't know
again,
either.
like there's some weird mechanics there. But yeah, Divine Storm's pretty awesome. Great cool kit.
It's fun. Like I know there's been a lot of doomering about Ret, but like it's fucking fun
You
right
just
now.
walk
It is
into
fun.
trash. You just walk into trash. Especially like go do a high hill as a Ret Paladin if you want to find pure childlike wonder. Go into a high gel, drop your consecrate while you're running in, Divine Storm, Holy Wrath, and actually look that you're pretty high up there on meters.
Yeah. Which is like
Yeah.
was not the case. I remember Hydral early on, it was like your Ret was in a full spell power,
Full
like
spell power.
I did it. Yep. Good times, and you were like half of a warlock.
We did
you were doing,
okay.
like, yeah.
We did all right. But I mean, that pretty much covers it for like everything besides the utility spells. Like we have some utility spells. Like we got the Divine Sacrifice, which is like the raid sack. It
Oh.
reduces the damage that your raid takes if you have the Divine Guardian talent, right? Like it'll make your raid take 20% less damage for 6 seconds, and it'll transfer some damage to you. You also have like the single target Hand of Sacrifice that you can put on your tank and reduce the damage or transfer some of the damage he's taking to you. These are like things that will separate a okay Ret Paladin or like a lazy Ret Paladin from like a really good one. If you don't spec into Divine Sacrifice, you'll get Aura Mastery, which is making your auras twice as strong, which is not really the good part, but it also makes your Concentration Aura give you like an immunity to silence and interrupt for 6 seconds, which is like pretty much the main core reason why you would get it. But you just can't get it with Divine Sacrifice, so you have to pick one. I think most Rets, if they're PvE oriented, will just dual spec into both and then swap when they need them. And then you obviously have your Art of War, can give you Instacast Flash of Light. Then you have your hand spells. You have Salvation, which pick a target and you take 20% of their threat and you reduce it over 10 seconds. 2-minute CD. Use it on people that are going to pull aggro. Use it on yourself on the pull on trash. Stuff like that.
You are fucking smacking these bosses right now. No anybody's saying that. He's like top every time, bro. It's crazy.
Yep.
I mean, there's a lot.
We're
of
in a good place right now. Yeah.
You're doing a good.
I mean, we have
now.
our entire kit right now. Like we literally only get a rank of Exorcism, a rank of Consecrate on the way to 80. That's all we get. So we have our entire kit right now. Like we're in a pretty good spot in pre-patch. If anybody's like thinking about playing Ret in Wrath, I would play right now. I'd try it out.
Each of these bosses you're dumping, man. It's pretty crazy.
So
And then we still have like Blessing of Freedom, works the exact same. It's a little bit shorter now. In PvP, if you get the talent, you can break yourself out of stuns. While you're in the stun, you can break other people out of stuns. Your bop is still exactly the same. And then you have Hand of Reckoning, which we talked about a little bit earlier. It's your single target taunt. It's off the GCD. If you're really, really clever, you can find ways to use it and get free damage by
does
taunt
damage.
swapping. It does do
Yeah.
damage, and it can
does-
crit.
It does a like if you pull up the picture I just posted, it does a non-insignificant amount of damage as well. Like
Yeah, it's pretty big.
It's
I mean, you're
it's-
also spamming it in your rotation as like a tank too. It's like it's throwing out some fucking
well,
hits.
you're also spamming it as a ret on trash because it's like because like you can just do basic things like you just snipe shit. Like if you're really wanting to pad the meters, you're sniping taunts on things that are low or things like things that'll die before they come and turn around and beat the shit out of you. But
Look, his average hit was 3K. I mean, that's pretty hard hitting, right?
yeah, the max hit was what was that? 4.8K. So
Yeah.
it's-
So
and
does it do
that's pretty
damage
bad.
if they're taunt immune? I don't actually know that.
No, it does not. But
I don't think
trash
so,
is
yeah.
That
very
sucks.
often tauntable.
So it's going to be about like if you really want to be clever and try to find a sneaky way to add some damage, this is going to be it. Swapping taunts with your tanks and calling out, you know, hey, I'm taunting in 3, 2, 1, boom, taunt back, stuff like that. You can
Get
figure
one
out.
shot easy.
Yeah, you get one shot.
yeah.
You can figure. I mean, sack maybe Divine Guardian or Divine Sack the raid first, but no, I mean like you can. There's little little ways you can edge out a little bit more damage like that. It's just a little bit risky. Not everybody's gonna have to do it. If you don't do it, you're not gonna be out of the competition. You can still get 99s or probably even 100s without doing it. It's not gonna be that big of a deal. But it does
It's
give you the
irrelevant
extra
on
edge.
bosses. It's irrelevant on bosses more or less. So that's like the
Yeah.
big thing to keep
If
in
they're
mind.
taunt immune, you don't have to worry about it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it's nice. But and then the only other spell we haven't talked about is a spell that everybody forgot about, and I'll be surprised if you guys can even remember that this exists if you play Paladin. But there is a spell that you guys all took off your bars at level 30 or 40, and it's your old bubble. Once you got Divine Shield, you put your new bubble on your bars. Your old bubble is still there in your spellbook, and it's waiting for you, and it's a shield wall now. It's literally just a shield wall.
What's it called?
What is it? 50%, right?
Divine
Is it-
50,
what it is?
50%. It's called Divine Protection.
Yep.
It's 50% damage reduction. It's just a shield wall. It does. Now, the way that Forbearance works now is that all the defensive spells share a 2-minute cooldown together. So that's Lay on Hands, Bop, Bubble, Divine Protection. They all share like a 2-minute shared CD, right? Avenging Wrath is 30 seconds. So if you want to use an offensive Avenging Wrath, 30 seconds later you can bubble. So that's a nice change that punishes you less for using Avenging Wrath, but you're not going to be able to use it with Bubble. Bubble is still just your regular bubble is still just immunity. I haven't actually checked and see if it removes threat from you if the mobs hit you through it or not. I imagine it works the same where
Which one?
the regular
Protect-
bubble when you go immune. I
Yeah,
imagine
it's-
that they just
it's-
stop hitting you.
You're off the threat table while it's active.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
Since
the
you're not
shield
target
wall obviously like you're still on the threat
You're
table.
still
It's
there.
going to be huge
Yep.
for tanks, stuff like that. And also
really
your
nice
lay on
CD.
hands, your lay on hands can crit, and when it does, you get that sheath of light hot, and it heals for so much. It's like ticking for like 5k every second, so for every few seconds. But and that's like every spell basically. How they've changed. That pretty much covers everything. I mean, we've gone through basically the entire list. So a lot of
Holy Wrath?
utility.
Cover
Oh
Holy
yeah,
Wrath?
Holy Wrath. Obviously Holy Wrath.
Holy
I mean,
Wrath is
Well, I know
super
what that
good.
one
So
is.
it is instant
That is
cast now.
so
It used to have a
nice.
cast timer, and it's an AoE stun. It will only affect undead and demons. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But it's AoE instant cast, stuns, procs vengeance. It's pretty legit.
And it's so useful in Nax, right? Like you fucking
Oh, wildly,
everything's undead.
wildly.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, yeah.
so clutch.
This is kind of why I'm saying, like in Nac, Ret Paladin is going to be able to run in Divine Storm, Holy Wrath, and like in 2 globals, it's kind of like the same, like we were saying, it's the same thing as your Howling Blast. It's 2
Yeah.
globals to just blast 4 to 6 targets really hard.
Now there's a glyph for this that cuts the cooldown in half. It might be useful. It might be useful on Nax Trash. It's not the best glyph for like boss damage or cleave damage like outside of undead or demons. obviously, but it is probably useful to have for Nax Trash. You can just like swap it between like maybe have 2 specs, one with the Holy Wrath glyph, one without it. But it does use a lot of mana.
You just have a stack of glyphs, honestly.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I guess that too. It does use a lot of mana though. It's 20% of your base mana, so it's like one of the few ways you can go Like in Wrath, it's really hard to go as a Ret Pally, but you have the Holy Wrath glyph and you're using it a lot. That's one of the few ways that you can make yourself go even through using Divine Plea every minute. And I guess we haven't mentioned Divine Plea, but it's just a 1 minute cooldown and it gives you back like 20% of your base mana or 25% of your base mana. So every minute you're just using it and getting free mana back. And it's like 400 mana per tick or something.
It reduces your healing output while it's active. Not quite as relevant for Ret, but it's important for like when you're leveling. Just to keep in mind that like while that's active, you can't. You're hot. You're mortal struck.
Yeah.
So.
There's one thing that I feel like we didn't mention. Did we talk about?
Dude, look how far.
Like,
hold on. Look how far my Scylla command is going. See that? It's cleaving out like 30 yards.
That is actually crazy. Did we talk about like the difference now with Rets on hands instead of blessings?
The hands do not override your blessings. So there's only 4 Pally blessings total. Might, Wisdom, Kings, and Sanctity. Salvation has been rolled into everyone. It's just hard baked into everyone. Light has been hard baked into the Paladin, into the heals. So the hands will not override your stuff. So they're like two. Sorry, there's 2 separate buffs now. So
yeah, quality of life for sure.
Hands will override themselves. So if you hand salve somebody and then you just protection them as well because they're being warlocks being a super mongoloid, that salve goes away.
Yeah.
What warlocks? What? No way.
Yeah.
Warlocks pulling threat? I would never in my life.
That's
I don't even bring them to raid. What are you talking about?
I've never heard of that. You know what I mean?
So.
That KJ pump, bro,
I guess the other like weird things. There's a couple like weird interactions. Well, not weird. So Repentance used to reset your swing timer. Doesn't do that anymore. Very helpful for
Thank the Lord.
Very helpful for PvP. Kind of nice for if you're doing solo stuff. I would say it's useful in 5-mans, but those are such a joke. You would never CC anything in a 5-man. In Wrath, Judgments have some weird effects with Righteousness. So with Judgment, all seals except for Command and Vengeance, Judgment will also proc the seal effect. So Righteousness, Light, Wisdom, and Justice, Judgment can proc the seal effect. It will not do that for Command and Vengeance though, and it's just this weird thing. I've even tried to bring it up to a dev to see if maybe we can get a little more consistency on that. But that's
I was gonna
just
say
the thing.
if it did proc Vengeance, we would probably be on par with a lot of other DPS on single target.
I think it would be enough. It would be another like 3 to 4% damage.
Yeah, it would be not.
Which
it
would be
not
helpful.
Insignificant.
It would be helpful. It would bring Ret single target pretty much right up to like the low A tier DPSers. So
that would be kind of huge. All right, yeah.
So, anyways, there's like a lot of weird things. Judgment's just in general a really weird spell and acts weird. Vengeance is a weird seal. So,
yeah.
It's crazy how much damage you're doing. I'm just watching it like a 3rd time over.
At the end, I think I'm tied with the Glaive Rogue at the top.
Crazy.
He's like command, but yeah, I think they didn't want to kill the Sinister Reflection, so I just got to cleave him the whole time. It's like you know when you watch a Londo get his 100 parse on KJ, they leave all the reflections up so he can just cleave.
Yeah.
And like that's basically what I got to do this entire time.
Serve Londo.
Serve Londo.
My man.
But you know, there's really only a couple things. I guess we didn't talk about professions, but that's really easy. It's just NG and jewel crafting. If you want to have the best professions, you go NG, you go jewel crafting. NG is like
literally like every single DPS.
Every single DPS.
Jewel crafting's, I think it's like 20-ish more base stats over blacksmithing, which is number 2. At least.
Oh, so blacksmithing is your second actually.
No. I meant like if you look at just raw stats provided by the professions. Jewel crafting is like 25-ish ahead, 28 I think, over blacksmithing until phase 3, and then that value's like 3 or 4 when you get the epic gems. But then would never drop engineering because you get a sprint, you get grenades and all sorts of other stuff. So
Nitro boosts are gonna actually be a pretty nice damage boost on some fights with a
so
lot of
good.
movement.
So good.
I'm sad that they're not letting you use them in arena, because that was a big part of Ret arena was nitro boosts back in the day. But
Yeah, it makes sense, but
It does.
It's unfortunate.
yeah, and then like, so like obviously NG's just the best, JC's the next best, and then blacksmithing is good enough. It's good enough,
It's
and it
third
gets better
best.
when you get epic gems. When
Yeah.
you get epic gems, it gets closer to on par with JC. So
Yeah, like I said, I think it's like 4, like between 3 and 5 strength that you're missing out. I forgot. I had the number written down.
as far as like TBC gear that you might want to pick up on your way into Wrath, there's really only one item that's prebis, and that's the shoulder pads of Berserking from Twins. Like strength and haste and crit, those will be prebis for Nax.
Oh,
And 2 sockets. That's like the biggest thing.
Yeah, and nothing else is really prebis. The Sunwell tier is still really good. It's close to prebis, but it's not actually prebis. But it's pretty close. Especially if you throw on like
belt.
a pair of shoulders for the 4-piece, or like a chest. If you don't have a good chest yet, you can throw on the chest for the 4-piece, which is Hammer of Wrath, 10% damage. So that's pretty nice. And
The
then you're
belt-
saying the belt.
The belt is like the second best piece. So the thing is you've got rep boots are there's boots that are available from Reputation that are better than the boots and than the tier boots. So those are like easy to get, so I wouldn't plus the thing with the belts is the better belts are drops, so there's a chance you just don't see them. We've all been there. And then for bracers, there's blacksmithing bracers that are just wildly good. So
the Swift Steel or whatever.
In Wrath, they're like
Oh yeah.
I'm just saying for like prebis, it's like shoulders.
BOE prebis.
Yeah. The shoulders are actually prebis, and then the belt is very close because it already has a socket. It's got great stat spread.
Were the shoulders pre-bis for you already, or bis for you already before pre-patch? I feel like I don't see too many Rets that have Paladins of Berserking. And now you're fighting all of the DKs that want it.
There were 3 shoulders that were all very good. Vehemence were very good. Vehemence were really nice because they had the hit, and if you didn't have a hit helm, or if you didn't have, especially if you didn't have a hit buff, Vehemence were very, very, very good. The Demon Tooth were fairly good, and then Berserking were pretty much in line. Like they were all within line of each other, like plus or minus 5.
Yeah, 10 DPS max, like difference between the 3.
So, but Berserking are just very good because like the armor pen's just like a dead stat, and so the demon tooth, I think it was the Thunderbird ones. Those are just not good anymore. And then Vehemence are probably a close. I need to double check, but they're a close second just because like they've got a lot of hit on them, and we're short hit in a lot of cases.
Yeah,
so the hit's nice.
That's good to know. Good to know.
If it's okay, I think I would like to segue into. We have like a WeakAura we want to give you guys that our friend Suli's made. So Suli's is a friend of ours. He works on the Wrath sim for Ret, and he also is one of the people that worked on the TBC Ret sim. And I don't know for people that have seen the TBC Ret sim flowchart, it's probably the most complicated sim that's ever been created, because the flowchart is like literally hundreds of. It's insanely complicated, and he's like one of the smartest people I know to be able to even come up with that. But he's a really smart guy. He's been working on the Wrath sim with us. Well, not me because I'm not a developer, and he made this WeakAura. I have a little sample clip for you. I'll throw it in the chat. But yeah, go ahead. So it just tells you kind of what is like the next spell that you want to cast. It'll show up when I get into combat here. I'll throw it in my chat real quick. And it's going to be in the list of notes that come with the episode at the bottom in the description. As you can see it right here above my swing timer. and I'm not following it perfectly. I literally just installed it before this fight, but it tells you what spell to cast next. It changes
From
if
like
you
the
have
right to the
command up.
left.
Yeah, the left is the next spell you want to cast, right?
This one.
So
No. Yeah.
no, right
yeah,
there, right. So the left is the next spell you want to cast, and then it goes in order. So so you're gonna go Divine Storm, Consecrate, Exorcism, Crusader Strike, Judge, and
This-
it constantly adjusts,
Oh,
right?
that's dope.
So left to right, the left spell is the
Wow.
next spell,
Oh wow.
and it goes out from there. And it constantly is adjusting. Now when it comes to like how you prioritize your spells in Wrath, it varies a lot. It's going to change all the time depending on your gear. We have a script that we've been using in conjunction with the sim to kind of tell us what the best prios are for all the different phases. And if you have this gear, you want to use this prio. And in the WeakAura, you can order the like the auras, like when you collapse the group of WeakAuras, they're ordered in a certain way. If you just change the order, you're changing the prio. So if you want to have Divine Storm as top prio spell, you just put
Mhm.
that at the top. It's really easy to use. And for people that don't want to bother with doing all that, the default prio that it comes with is like really good. It's one of the best ones in pretty much every situation. It's not always the best one, but it's always consistently very, very close to the best prio you could be using. So it's going to order your spells in a very efficient way. And I'm not using it perfectly here, but you guys get the gist. Once again, throw it in my chat. It'll be in the description. I highly recommend anybody use this. It makes it really easy.
And just to also, I might have missed if you mentioned this. It'll swap also for between command and vengeance. So like if you have command,
Yes.
you're obviously cleaving. So it is default set to be a more cleave centric rotation that we found, versus the single target when you're in vengeance mode. So that's the other thing that's really, really nice about it, is it will just default swap for you.
Yeah, and you
That's
can
awesome.
change the prio for cleave. You can change the prio for single target. They're separated. It's really easy. You guys will love it once you pull it up and start playing with it. And if you don't want to tinker with it, you can just plug and play. You don't have to mess with it at all. It'll just work right out the gate, and it'll do close to the optimal rotation for you every time. So
Thanks.
thanks to Solis for making this. He did it all by himself. So
I'm gonna put it in here now. Cool. I'll make sure I link it everywhere too. If you have it, oh, you already linked it. Cool. Is that it right there? Cucumber linked?
yeah, here I posted it in
Yeah,
the group chat.
Perfect.
That's it. That is it. Yes.
Can you touch on races as well? A couple people asked about races when you hit up on professions.
What? No, I'm just kidding.
Blood Elf is all you can do for Horde, so that's your thing until Terryn Paladin is a thing, and I think it's just human for Alliance.
Human and dwarf, right? I guess they have
Yeah.
dwarfs have the mace
So
specialization.
Yeah, the mace specialization went to dwarf instead of human. So like you get it, and mace spec is only 3 expertise instead of 5. So it's really just whatever weapon you have, and then once race change
I think
happens, you can
Human
swap on
has
the
like
tier.
a weak one. Dwarf has a stronger one.
Or is it that? I don't know. I'm Horde, so I should know this stuff. But
I think it's 3 now for humans, 5. For
That makes
dwarves.
sense because humans get the last man for himself. So
Humans have human racials are just
yeah,
sick,
that's
dude.
the main thing. So like the thing with dwarf is like there's no good maces. We'll cover this more with gearing, but there's just no good maces at all through the game. So like you don't really get much out of the mace spec. It's one of those like yes, in theory you swap, but in practicality, like outside of that vacuum, there's just nothing decent. So
I guess
you're
some
either
people
running
in
an axe or a
chat-
sword.
Will to survive. My God, Toto loves it. I rolled Draenei for the guild on one of my DKs, and it's like technically
It's
hunters
painful.
should be the Draenei. Will to survive is actually going to be so useful in a lot of raid situations. Getting out of like having a trinket is ridiculously nice in a lot of situations. It's a meme now though.
Yeah.
I wish I'd rerolled.
The Draenei? You wish you re-rolled the Draenei, or you wish you didn't?
No, I wish I went human. I wish I went human.
You are Draenei?
Yeah, I'm Draenei.
Are you gonna race change when it lets you?
Yes. As long as the guild will allow it.
People always knock humans, bro. They're like, yeah, why would you want to be a human in real life and in game? Because they're fucking broken.
They are pretty
a
broken.
free PvP trinket is probably the most
Yeah.
overpowered ability next to like
And having it while you're PvEing also, it's
yeah.
There's a lot of shit in Lich King that gets you out of stuff with the trinket too, or a lot of these boost classes. A lot
Right.
of us are boosting and doing BGs right now. A lot of them are human. You don't have to worry about PvP trinket.
Yeah, so that would be
Or
real
wearing
nice.
a PvP trinket on, like, you know how we were going twins and a lot of people had the Mando PvP trinkets. Boom, that's huge.
yeah, it's not a thing anymore. Easy.
What is for you? Your journey, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. Fuck me, dude. God, it's every day. I think about it literally like multiple times a day. I'm like, why?
Art of War WeakAura. Nice. Okay. I'll
Yeah,
link that
so
as
this
well.
is I got a couple people in my chat asking about this. I'm just gonna post it in my chat as well.
Go ahead.
This is the Art of War WeakAura. When you saw me showing off the WeakAura, the priority one in SSE there was like wings that were showing up on the like around my character. That just tells me I have Art of War up. You can do this two ways, either using this WeakAura that I have in my chat, and Crix gonna post it in the chat as well. You can do it with the WeakAura, or you can do it with a add-on called
I just linked it.
What is the add-on called?
Spell activation overlay.
Yeah.
I was telling people to steer clear of this early on because it wasn't adjustable. So like it would just put things in a base size and location. So like it would get in the way of like if you've adjusted your UI or your own weak auras or anything like that. But they have updated it a day ago, 2 days ago. And so like this is really nice, and it'll do procs for all of the classes. It is.
I've been using this add-on for a couple weeks now, about a month now, and I absolutely love it. It works for every single cast. I can speak for the casters. It works for every single caster class, every proc of anything that's ever comes up on any of my classes without any issues.
Now it's adjustable
without
too, so
any
that's
issues, which is
huge.
nice. I didn't know that it wasn't. I kind of speaking on that, I didn't need it to be adjustable. It was fine where it's at on my classes personally. So that's kind of cool they did add that. But yeah, I've been also, just like Sarthe said, I was skeptical at first, and Felipe told me to get it. That's when I got it finally, and then I love it. It's like having that WeakAura that you always get to watch your procs, but you don't need it for any of your classes.
Yeah, I was designing them like personally for every class too, or like importing like the actual retail UI or like, so then whenever people would import my WeakAuras, they're like, why are they these green boxes? And I have this huge red letters on on my WeakAura download page. It's like massive red letters, like it covers the whole like first page. And then I'm like, just all you have to do is read this. I get the question literally 50 times a day. And so now that they've adjusted this add-on even more, I'm like very excited about.
Yeah, so if you go with the add-on, it obviously works for more classes than just Ret. If you go with the WeakAura, there is a downloaded texture, because the texture is not like a default WeakAura's texture. You have to download the texture from the description, but I can vouch I did it myself, and there's no viruses. I scan it and everything, I promise. But if you don't feel comfortable downloading the texture and putting it in your add-ons folder, then just go with the add-on. So those will both be in the description if you guys want to check them out. But that pretty much covers all the tech that you might want. Like there's going to be a list of macros that you'll see as well that you can use down in the description. But as far as tech goes, it's really just the Art of War, something that tells you that you have Art of War, and something that tells you what spell to cast next with your prio, and that'll cover pretty much everything that you need in terms of like WeakAuras or other technology, other add-ons, things like that.
Beautiful. Go ahead. Next one is a Ret overview. Whoever wants to take that away. It looks like you already sent me a talent thing that I have up now. If that's what that was. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So talents here for Ret. This is like your baseline cookie cutter mandatory talents that you need. You'll also notice this is like also something you can just go at 70. But this has everything that you need to have to be at least doing optimal damage. So just kind of going down the tree, there are 2 points that are not mandatory, and it's the 2 points in improved might, and that is only if like you don't have either you don't have a warrior, or you want to allow your warriors to not have to spec 5 points into moderately dead talent, whereas you just spec the 2. It's pretty nice. So but if like you have a whole bunch of warriors and they're just fine dumping 5 points into that, you can go 2 points into like Vindication, or there's a few other points. kind of going into that, Vindication kind of is it's the same debuff as Demo Shout. Frankly, Demo Shout's a little better just because it's like a total AoE. Vindication only procs off of your melee abilities, so Divine Storm, Auto Attack, Crusader Strike, so you can't get it up on a lot of things.
Well, you can't. What? But it doesn't proc on everything with Divine Storm. You just.
No, it does. But what I'm saying is, like, if you run into a pack that like hits really hard and you want to get demo shout up on like in Hydra, if you want to put demo shout up, like, or if you want to get this up, a warrior can get it up on everything, whereas you can hit 4 targets. Also, it's only a 50% chance to proc, so it's not going to go up always. It'll stay up, and it's a great leveling talent, but it's not gonna be consistent. Is the main thing. The points in Sanctified Retribution are covered by Arcane Mage. So at least in pre-patch, you don't really need that because all mages are going Arcane because it's doing absurd. Divine Purpose
right now.
Divine Purpose is kind of like the next, and we'll go all the way down the tree again in a minute. I'm just going over the kind of filler points you could swap around. Divine Purpose is really, really, really nice for solo, and it's absurdly good for PvP. You can use Freedom while you're stunned. You can get other people out of their stuns with it. You can get yourself out of your stun. It is super, super busted. So these are like another 2 points that you could use instead of Improved Might if you so decided to. But otherwise, this is like the cookie cutter mandatory spells. You want to have 5 points into the Divine Strength and Protection. It's an absurd amount of damage. And then the 5 points into Seals of the Pure. There's one instance where you might not do that, but I'll go over that in a bit. But then as far as like your general raid spec from here at level 80, it's just kind of what your raid needs. Typically, you want to get 5 points into protection in some way to get down to Divine Sack. That's pretty much the standard build. Divine Sack is a group sack.
Did you say that you lose some DPS by grabbing it though?
No, you lose DPS if you go to the raid sack. So they're two. There's 2 separate things. So Divine Sacrifice is just within your group, which is nice because if you just stick the Ret Paladin in the tank group, then now you have an extra tank cooldown, right? And it lasts 10 seconds, so you can just bubble pop this, and you're doing very well. Divine Guardian, which is below that, you can get this. However, you will lose 3 points in Seal Appear you'll only be able to get 3 out of 5 in Seals of the Pure in order to get this. And that's kind of where the dilemma, that's where the kind of iffy thing is. It's an absurdly strong talent, but you're losing probably 3 to 4-ish, 3 to 5-ish single target damage. Completely
That's
irrelevant on trash though.
Okay, but still 5%. Oh, man, that hurts.
Yeah, and that's kind of why it sucks to get, and that's why it's really frowned upon. I have a lot of these specs in the Wowhead guide.
You think they're gonna make you take it? You think it's gonna be normal to
take
it?
in case they make it, if they make you take it, yeah, that's the you'll lose. It's about 3 to 5% DPS on single target that you're losing, because it's all the Seal of Vengeance damage, but it's also the Judgment Vengeance damage, and that does add up a bit. So that's the big issue there. But yeah, then outside of this, so you've got your 5 points that you need to spend, or 5 points you need to spend in protection to get Divine Sack. It just kind of depends on what you want to get. You can go highly recommended to go 2 in Divine into Guardian's Favor. Puts your Hand of Protection down to a 3-minute cooldown, which is super good. And then from here, you can either go stun duration reduction or just get 3 points into Divinity, and you're taking more healing, which is super nice. And then you have your party sack. And then from here, you've got 5 points left to spend, or 4 points, and those are just generally raid buffs. The typical thing is you have 1 in Sanctified Retribution and 3 in Swift Retribution. If you have a consistent Boomkin, you literally don't need this because they have to take their haste buff because it also gives them spell damage. So you can take those 3 points and now you have utility. So Divine Purpose is always really nice. And then you just got a free point to do whatever.
Good question. Are you taking it though?
Am I taking it? No. Probably not.
Probably not. Probably not.
Probably not.
I'm just gonna tell
unless-
everybody, go get this.
I mean,
I'm
like,
not
if
doing
our,
it
if our,
though.
bo- if our boom, well, no, I mean, like the boomkin. If you have a boomkin, they literally want to do that because they get bonus spell damage off that. So,
Yeah.
like, there's if you read the tooltip, it is your auras increase casting range and melee attack speed by 1%, which is the same thing the boomkin provides, and you don't get any extra benefit. It'd be one thing if it's like also increases your strength by 10% or by 10%. It's like, yeah, of course, take this. But there's no point if someone else is just providing it by default. So
Yeah. That's fair.
but
But yeah, are you taking the raid wide DSAC though?
so if you want to do that, like I said, you got to drop 3 points in Seal of the Pure. I will voice against it unless it's like there's like a raid strat that's revolves around it. Like that's kind of the main thing is like if your raid strat revolves around it, then sure. But I don't know of anything until literally Lich King where raid stack would be really useful. Also, I'm pretty sure not only is your prop paladin gonna get it, but your holy paladin will probably be getting it as well. So you'll have at least 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if you need a 3rd raid-wide cooldown, then maybe. But I frankly, I can't think of any reason why you would need 3 raid-wide cooldowns in a 2-minute time frame.
Yeah, it's kind of overkill, honestly.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy.
So
Good to know though for people looking at it.
and then, like, if for some reason you're going Aura Mastery, which is kind of nice, but I think that it's less. Personally, I just find that overall less useful from a utility standpoint. You would you'd take out of the 5 or the 6 extra you put in protection, 3 into healing light, and then probably 2 in either intellect or unyielding faith, just kind of depending on what if your encounter is gonna fear you, that's nice, and then you can pick up Aura Mastery. As far as glyphs, you're pretty much always running Judgment. You are not pretty much. You are always running Judgment. You are always running Vengeance. At least, well, okay. You will be running Vengeance until possibly TOGC ICC, when the gear you're just picking up this expertise natively and you don't need it anymore. And then right now you're gonna be running Consecration. We've ran some sims where during if a fight has a longer execute, Consecration glyph goes up like in value hugely because you just have so many buttons, you're just keeping your Consecration out for longer. In a fight where you have less execution time, if there's anything that kind of stops, like Archimon, for example, Exo is actually a little better because Exo just hits so hard.
Mm-hmm. And then and then in level 80, does that change things, or are we running?
No,
Yeah.
that's
level 80. Sorry,
That's
yeah,
level
that was
80.
the 3rd glyph.
Yeah.
We're pretty sure that with 4-piece tier 7, which reduces the cooldown on your judge, that you're going to want to use Consecrate for that.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute, though.
There's going to be different gear sets where you're going to want to use Consecrate, and different gear sets where you might want to use Exo. It's just, they're very close to each other all the time, though. So if you don't have, if you're using the wrong one, it's not going to be a big deal. It's like 10 or 15 DPS most of the time difference.
Yeah. We'll get to that in a minute, though. But yeah, that's like the main thing to look at here.
And you need to have Glyph of Sense Undead. It's like the only minor glyph
mandatory.
that matters. It's like the only minor glyph that matters. It's 1% damage on any undead. As long as you have Sense Undead up, which you're going to want to remember to keep up.
Yeah.
The rest of them are just kind of preference for minor glyphs, like most classes, so.
Beautiful. I have the Wowhead one's pulled up already if you want to go over hearing. Unless you want to touch more on this, and you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, do we want to talk about Prebis and or Prebis and P1?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's still subject to change with new data, but this is what we have so far. Terryn, you want to, since you simmed it all, you want to cover it?
So I guess we'll start with pre-raid. So in pre-raid, you pretty much have one option for helms, and that's the Titan Steel. It's just absurdly itemized because it doesn't have stamina on it, which is nice. You're getting bonus item budget for other stuff. Bloodied Waters. I'll just go over like the mandatory items. Bloodied Waters is really, really, really good. Vengeance Bindings is very, very, very good. And then Berserking is the best shoulders that you can get. There's a few others that we can go through later on. How do you guys normally do this? Do you go through like each slot one at a time, or
each person does it different? You kind of just talk about it. If there's some, I guess, obviously you got greatness down. You can talk about kind of the.
Might not necessarily have to talk about like every item because some of them are kind of obvious.
Yeah, you don't got to just.
Yeah. Greatness. So greatness is like you're gonna be using this up until phase 3. So you really want to get this. Mirror Truth is like good until you get Fury of the 5 Flights. And then a lot of everything else gets replaced. We can kind of talk about that. I have the wrong Libram listed here. So if you scroll down all the way down to Librams, this is like one hilarious thing to note. Until PvP is enabled, Libram of Furious Blows, which is a quest in
Oh, it's green.
Yeah, in Borean Tundra, that's your pre-raid Libram.
Oh damn.
And then for Cleave, this one from TBC is still like your best Cleave Libram because you want to have a different Libram when you have Seal of Command up. This one from TBC, right below it, Divine Judgment. This one for 20 badges, the epic one right above Avengement there. That it's like a 40% chance every time you judge to give you 200 attack power for 10 seconds. It's really, really good. There's actually a Seal of Command. There's a Seal of Command Libram at 80 that's actually worse than this one from TBC. So.
That's pretty dope.
Yep. So, but like on your single target, you're gonna get a green one. As far as like going through things, a lot of this like Prebis, we've got like 8-9 days of between launch and raids.
Yeah.
So a lot of this just kind of comes down to what you get for drops. Notable things: the Skullclad, the weapon, Skullclad Cleaver. This allows you to not have to. First of all, you don't have to drop a whole bunch of Titan Steel onto a weapon, and allows you to run hit in other slots because you're getting all this haste and crit and other things in the weapon slot, which is really good. So the Skullclad Cleaver is absurdly strong. I personally recommend that over the Destroyer if at all possible. Like at least target it, but if the loot drops are not with you, then you have a backup. Every slot has a backup of some kind. So Helm covered that. The Troll Woven Spalders, which are a leatherworking, is a good option if you don't have the Berserking, because all the Death Knights stole that. And that's leatherworking, so you can get that pretty easy. Bloodied Waters is a BOE. You should just grab that. Your tier is your best chest, and I mean it's badges, so you can get that pretty easy.
How's your set bonuses?
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. It's a mix. We had
Don't you worry.
We had some things come up about that literally this morning, and I'm just I was really annoyed about that. So, but the items for pre-raid are just better because you cannot get a 200 item level chest, right? An epic 200 item level chest. So that's better. The Heroes Redemption are very, very good as well, so you want to grab those. As far as belt, it's literally you grab whatever stats you need. If you need hit, you grab those, and otherwise you can. Oh, I still have the wrong. There, I'll get that fixed. Basically, any of the badge belts are very good, and you just grab whichever stat you need. And legs, you've got rep legs from Kirin 4 are good if you can't get the staggering legs. So the nice thing about free raid for Ret is you have a lot of options that it'll get you within about 100 DPS of like optimal, and you can get that without slaving away, or if you just have really, really bad drops. So I mean that's about it for pre-raid.
Yeah, and I guess some people asked about the Ring of the Kirin Tor. They were thinking that the other one would be better because it's got like strength and stuff, right? I mean,
Do I have the wrong one listed there? The
no,
strength
no, no.
one
You
is
have the
better.
right one. I think I asked you about this yesterday, and you said no. This is
Yeah,
actually the better one.
the
Right?
strength one
Oh,
is better.
okay, that's right. Okay, sorry, I got
Yeah.
confused.
No, the
Somebody was
strength.
asking me about it this morning, but
Yeah, the strength one is better.
and that's a lot of money. 8,500 gold.
Yeah, so
Jesus.
that's the other
Yeah.
thing is the Scarlet Shadows. If you can stack hit elsewhere in your gear, the Scarlet Shadows is decent. So if you don't want to drop 8,500, you can kind of go that route. Like I said, there's a lot of options. You'll get it within about probably 200 DPS if you go with like a budget option. If you're trying to gear out a bunch of raid like characters for splits, there's ways to go about this cheaper,
Yeah.
and with less time sink, which is nice. So
Yeah, obviously, in pre-raid is a very short time window where it's not super like you're gonna gear up pretty fast with Nax. So
right. So we can talk about phase one now, like with actual raid bis. And we'll start by talking about the 4-piece. So up until like 6 a.m. this morning, we were kind of under the impression that the 4-piece was pretty much the way to go because your 4-piece reduces. So Ret 2-piece gives you bonus damage to your Divine Storm, very good. For cleave especially, but then your 4-piece drops your cooldown on Judgment by 1 second. 1 second. This brings it down so that it's below 5 GCDs. So you're able to use it a lot more, right? So you're going from 8 seconds to 7. And up until this morning, we pretty much were leaning on the fact that this is better. It makes your spells line up better. It does a lot more better things. However, if you go to the set bonus, there's this 2-piece tier 7 bonus. And what this does is this actually just focuses on getting the best item level stuff. So you're grabbing the 226 legs from Sarthe, the 226 helm from Sarthe, and as it turns out, if you go this route, it's just better by about 100 to 120 DPS.
Damn.
From the 4-piece, and this is with having a rotation that is more optimized between the two sets. And it's frustrating, but that is what it is. So we have both of them listed here, and you do have to use a bit of a different rotation between the two sets.
yeah, there'll be more data to come on that. Basically, we've been
Yeah.
running these scripts, and they stimulate all the different rotations that you could possibly use with a certain gear set and a certain settings. And we just run a script for a few hours. It tells us what's the best prio for this gear set, and we're collecting that data so that we can publish it at some point and say like, hey, if you have this gear, if you have phase 1 bis, you use this prio. You can adjust your WeakAura to match. If you have phase 2 bis, you use this prio instead. Just to make it easier on people because it is really, really complicated. But if you don't really care about like getting that in depth with it, there's like a prio that we already have listed in our FAQ and in Light Club, and it's also listed in the podcast notes that'll be in the description. And this prio is like almost always pretty close to the top. It's not always the best, but it's pretty close. So if you don't want to go the extra mile with figuring out like, can I edge out 30 more DPS by changing my prio, then just stick with the default one and you'll be totally fine.
30 more DPS by like fully changing your rotation.
Yeah, just reordering the spells. It's actually crazy because like sometimes Consecrate is like your second to last prio spell. Sometimes it's like literally your second prio spell. It's like with only like a couple of items changed, it can totally swap like that. It's really crazy because it's like it's not even about how much damage the abilities do. Like that's part of it, but it's also about how the cooldowns line up. How many global cooldowns can you use? Like if I use my Crusader Strike, it's going to do less damage, but I can fill out more global cooldowns throughout the fight. I'll have less downtime. Stuff like that. It's very, very complicated, but luckily if you don't want to mess around with that, you're going to be pretty close regardless. Even if you have the wrong prio, as long as you have the default one, you'll be pretty set.
Yeah. The issue kind of comes down to talking about stats, haste the haste stat itself applies to both melee and spell haste. we have 2 buttons that are affected, have their GCDs affected by spell haste, and that's Exo and Consecrate. Everything else counts as a physical attack, so physical attacks are not subject to this, to the GCD reduction. But because of the way those 2 line up, sometimes what ends up happening is you will use Exo, like if you have 10% spell haste, you'll use Exo, and that GCD will last like 0.1 second less, and then you'll actually be able to use a couple of buttons sooner, and it has this weird ripple effect, and it causes like some rotation to suddenly be way better. The other thing we discovered is it causes these weird haste break points where if you're not, and I'm pretty sure the add-on does this, where if sometimes you actually want to delay and not use a lower prio button and wait for something higher to come up because of this. So like we were discovering this where like you would increase your haste and you would lose damage, and what would happen is you'd be using more of a lower prio or a less damaging button, and you would lose out on like 3 Crusader strikes throughout a fight, which is way more damage.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a lot of weird things. The prios that we have kind of found are getting published are the ones that are pretty much consistently good. They may be like off like 1 to 2 slots from like being completely optimal, but they'll be good for most people.
Yeah, and once again, those will be like in the notes that you guys can read.
And they'll always be pinned. We'll have them in the FAQ and the Ret Discord, and they'll always be available. As these details become less correct as Sim evolves and things like that. But yeah, that should be everything I think we need to cover on the 2Bs. Oh, your Libram. The big thing with both of these sets is your Libram is a PvP Libram. So get to arena-ing. Find yourself a really good hunter.
They did reduce the rating requirement to 700 on the beta. I was curious to see if that would stick.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm just sticking with the 1900 until it's live.
Yeah.
Personally. But you need to you should try and get it if you're trying to be optimal. Plus arena with Ret, a hunter, is probably one of the best things ever.
Yeah, so much fun. Or like Ret Hunter Disc in 3s, Ret Hunter Disc. Amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty juicy.
I think they call that Cupid Cleave, right?
They come up with some of the dumbest names for these
I
things.
know.
Yeah.
No. I was more partial to Turbo Twist in TVC, but
we did a
Cupid Cleave is okay, I guess.
And like Earpugs was going through like, and like he was like just like using the short names for a lot of the comps, and he was like, yeah, Cupid, if you're running up against a Cupid Cleave, you would do this and this, and I was just like,
what the is that? Oh, one thing that I didn't mention. So we've discussed hit. So gemming, you pretty much don't ever worry about gemming hard hit. It is like a slight damage loss. It's more consistent damage, which is probably better. But you don't really ever worry about gemming hard hit. You pretty much, for your slots, you run 1 enchanted tier early on. In whatever blue slot gives you the most strength, and then everything else is just bold
pure
gems.
strength. Yeah.
Just pure strength, just full send. And these sets do not change between Horde and Alliance as well.
Mm-hmm.
They're just flat out better. So like,
thank the Lord.
Yeah. That's like the other major thing that I remember seeing when we were looking at all this stuff.
That's I mean, I don't know many classes that do change.
Well, we had that in TBC where Alliance Paladins would have, specifically human Paladins would have an easier time with their setup.
Until Sunwell, when we were all on the even playing field and humans basically didn't have a racial. That was great. I like that.
Yeah.
Everybody's expertise capped regardless. Love it.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I guess the only thing that we really have left to talk about is like the 1-button rotation macro.
This is what Crix was excited about.
The big elephant in the room. And yeah, we're going to talk about it. So
it's bad.
It's
bad.
Like, so, hit it. How bad? What it? Yeah, give it.
Oh, there's
Alright, well,
drama about this. I can't wait.
pull up
Go
the notes, pull up the podcast notes, and go down to the one button part.
Watch, yeah.
There's one macro that's floating around. There's many macros. There's no singular best macro because it changes. Just like the prios, it changes all the time with the gear that you have. The best macro for any situation is highly dependent on like a huge number of variables. If you like, you're gonna need more than one macro. Like, you actually need 2 macros, like, period, because sometimes it gets stuck on exorcism and you have to like switch to a second macro to keep your rotation going without like just resetting the macro to the start. So yeah, okay, so now that I see this pulled up, I have a huge like
Boom.
pros and cons list.
Right there.
The macro is here if you guys want to play with it. If you guys are thinking about using it, I would highly suggest just going into a dungeon and trying it out. I don't think you're gonna like it. You're gonna notice that like you can't time your divine storm or your consecrate when you want them. Like you just can't control when they're going off. So that's a big problem in my opinion. If this is the macro that's typically floating around, I made a video about this on my YouTube channel. A guy named Terryn made a video talking about this macro, saying that it would be a DPS gain for most people. And I just didn't really agree. I didn't really agree. This is his macro, and this is the one that most people use and used on private servers. It requires Holy Wrath glyph because it has Holy Wrath. If you don't have the glyph, your cooldown is just not going to be short enough for you to use this macro. So you have to have the glyph, and this means it's a little bit more mana intensive. And then you have this execute macro that you have to swap to an execute phase. You'll notice that the execute macro has 6 spells. So you're only getting a Hammer of Wrath out every 9 seconds. 9 seconds. But you can't really shorten it. Like, you could delete Consecrate out of here, but then your cooldowns aren't really going to work right. You're going to get hung up on certain spells. You need all 6 spells to fill out the macro. Otherwise, you just have downtime. So it just has problems casting Hammer of Wrath enough, and it's going to suffer a lot more on execute. But if you guys want to try out the macro, here is a macro. There's many different macros. You can actually use the sim, which I guess we'll put a link in the notes for the sim because we didn't even talk about that. But you can go into the sim and build your own macro and test out various macros, see which one is the best if you want to use one. So down here,
we just don't recommend it. It is across the board less good.
Yeah, I have a huge list of pros and cons right down below here. The pros, I mean, there's obvious pros, right? You don't have to think. Look away from the screen. You can watch Netflix. You literally don't even have to look at the screen. Like, you can just play like kind of AFK. You don't have to learn different priorities. If you have slow fingers, like, it might be good. Like, if you can't press your spells fast enough, because like, you know, if you as Ret in Wrath, if you like,
if you're slow, just slow fingers.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
like,
unreal.
That's pretty much the only way you're gonna gain DPS, because like, if you play Ret in Wrath and you fuck up your rotation and you cast your spells in the wrong order, you're still pretty close to optimal as long as you're casting your spells as often as you can be. Like, if you fuck up the order, you're still in a pretty good shape, right?
You're within,
so like
you're within like 20% like from optimal. Like, one of the memes back in the day was like a Ret Paladin could like bind their entire spellbook to their keyboard and just kind of roll their face, like kind of like how your Shadowbolts look like, Sarthe, on your Warlock. Like, if you did something like that for your keyboard and you just kind of rolled your face, like, you're within about 80% of like that 20% window from optimal. It's just like wiggling that out, but you still have to be hitting your buttons, obviously.
Yeah, like, that's one of the only ways I think you gain DPS from the macro is if you're just like not really casting your spells fast enough. If you're doing them in the wrong order, I think you're going to be about the same or better than the
80% is like such a 20% off of your max DPS because you're using a macro is such a huge amount in my eyes. Like,
I would say, okay, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, like 20%. So this macro specifically is, when he said 20%, I think you meant
if you're just doing cast random, like literally
Yeah,
bind
yeah, yeah.
keyboard to spells and just mash your face on like just doing that. Like that's what I'm saying. You're within about, honestly, as long as you're hitting on the GCD and you're hitting something, you're within about 20% of optimal. It's just
I mean,
making
you
sure
can get even
shit's
closer
getting
to
hit.
like as
Yeah.
long as you're pressing your buttons. But the damage loss is like not actually that bad. It's 5 to 8%. On execute, it's bigger. It's 10 to 15%. Because
What's
of
FCFS?
FCFS is the normal rotation as it's first come first serve. That's
Okay.
kind of a misnomer because you're not actually casting your spells like based on what comes off cooldown first. You're kind of like sometimes you have multiple spells off cooldown at the same time, and you have to decide like this one's the best spell to use right now. So it's not technically first come first serve, but that's what everybody calls it. So that's kind of the name for the normal rotation, just playing manually. So the macro is going to lose about 5 to 8% damage. Most macros fall around 5% to 10% worse than playing normally. There is certain situations, like if you have 4-piece tier 7 and you have a cons glyph and you have like a lot of these different like specific conditions met, you can sometimes have macros that are within like 20 DPS of optimal, but it's more rare to like have that be the case. And you have to like specifically tailor your macro to do that. So some of the other cons are that you can't time your abilities, like I talked about earlier. You can't time your consecrate. A lot of times when I was trying out the macro, I would consecrate when there's just no mobs underneath me, or like I'm consecrating and we just move and it's just wasted. Or like I divine storm when there's one mob in front of me and there's more mobs coming in that I would have wanted to hold divine storm for. So that's an issue. It can get stuck on exorcism. So like we talked about with Art of War, if you get a proc for Art of War, your exorcism is an instant cast, but this doesn't always happen. If you don't have an Art of War proc, then your exorcism will be like a hard cast. It's gonna take like a second and a half to cast. And if you're using the macro, you don't really have any way to avoid this. So the macro will just get stuck. It'll get stuck on exorcism, and you need a second macro to like swap to when that happens so that you can keep going. If you switch to like manual at that point, you're going to lose damage. Every time you swap between the macro and playing manually, every time you make that transition, you're losing more damage because your cooldowns aren't going to line up properly like the macro wants them to. And then you also have, it requires the Holy Wrath glyph. If exorcism does hard cast, then your swing timer is going to reset. That's going to lose you some damage. If you don't have Holy Wrath glyph, it's going to be a way bigger damage loss, like 20%. So you need to have the Holy Wrath glyph, and the Holy Wrath glyph and this macro and in particular means that you have to be using Holy Wrath every like 18 seconds or so, which really chunks your mana. It's like one of the only ways that you're going to go I think the macro goes in about 3 to 5 minutes on the sim, so that's about the extent to which you can survive without going and that's using Divine Plea every single minute. You're still going to go after about 3 to 5 minutes because it's just casting Holy Wrath way too much. Now you can delete Holy Wrath from the macro. It's going to do a little bit less damage than if you had Holy Wrath and the glyph, but it'll be a little bit better on mana. So another thing is that you in tier 10, we talked about the Divine Storm proc where it resets your auto attack, right? You don't really have any ability to capitalize on this with the macro. You just have to wait for the macro to come back around to Divine Storm. So the guy Teriak who made a video about this macro, he was like showcasing the macro and made a video. He was like wearing 2-piece tier 10 and he was like showing off the macro on a target dummy, and his Divine Storm like reset for like 8 seconds and it's just sitting off cooldown for like 8 seconds until like his macro comes all the way back around to Divine Storm and gets to use it again. So like with 2-piece tier 10, it's going to be a lot worse. You're just not going to be able to Divine Storm and capitalize on those procs.
Can we just say don't use the macro?
Just like don't use it.
But you shouldn't be using
crazy.
a macro. Ret's not supposed to be using one, is what you're saying.
If it's doing so,
Okay.
if it's fucking up on a proc, it's fucking up your rotation. It's optimal in a very small
Casual
vacuum
guild.
Oh my god!
Like I could talk for
cannot believe
hours
people
about
want to do this.
I could talk for hours about all the reasons why it's gonna suffer. But if you guys really want to read through them all, they're all here listed in the notes. I already made a video about it on my YouTube channel, and I have a part 2 video coming out because when I made my first video, I got a little bit of flack for some things. So I'm making another video. It's gonna be like a part 2 and just cover some of the criticisms
What
I
was the
got.
flack like? I'm upset because I was so excited to use this one,
Oh, it's
but
like, it's
Well,
like
no.
content creator drama.
I mean, I don't know why anybody would want to use
Uh.
it because you're like removing agency, like you're just
yeah,
automating.
You're not playing the
Fucking
game.
Zing, yeah. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's not used.
I get
I
it because
really
there's
am.
like auto hockey hunters that were in TBC. Like I fucking get it. You know, the people don't want to play
Yeah.
the game, but that would only be to optimize a rotation better than a human can play. This is doing the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't know, it's
Crazy
just-
to me.
Yeah, I think most people. I think the biggest like thing that I got was like it's close enough, and if that's your out like on single target, sure, it's you know you get within 5%. Like if that's close enough to you, then all right. But 5% is like that's a lot. Like
Yeah, that's a lot.
okay, so if you're a glaive rogue and you finish your glaive set, that's like 7% damage,
Oh.
right? Like 5%'s a lot. That's like if you are a hunter and you go from Golden Bow to Thoradol, that's like 5%. If you go from Shadow or Oathbinder to Shadowmourne as a Ret, that's like 6% if you don't use a cancel or a macro, because we can't sim that yet. We will be able to sim it soon, but if you just equip Shadowmourne and do nothing else, that's like 6%. So like 5% in the grand scheme of WoW, that's a lot.
Hey, so why we're on that little bit of topic? Are you guys want Shadowmourne, bro? Is that Ret Pile I heard?
Juice, the juice.
Okay, so I mean, this is actually we are not gonna know how good it is until we get Cancel Aura implemented on the sim, because like the idea is that when you get the proc and when it stacks to 10 stacks, it gives you like a proc called like Chaos Bane or something, and then if you macro into all your abilities to Cancel Aura that proc, you can start stacking your stacks up again for the next one, and it just ends up with like higher DPS overall and like more strength from the proc. So you just bind Cancel Aura like Chaos Bane into all your abilities, and we don't have that on the sim yet, so we don't know the true potential. But
What if we
looking
get
at
pre-nerf Shadowmourne though, where the AOE ability happens?
oh yeah, I heard about this actually. That would be
It
that would
was
be
giga
wild.
busted on Ret Paladin because it was just like beesh, beesh, beesh. It was super crazy. Now it hits
Wait.
for like a wet noodle. But yeah.
Weren't we talking on the DK one where they said it was Ret Prow? Were they trolling? Is this not Ret Prow?
Well, okay, so there is some older data from Elitist Jerks that talks about how Ret gets the most DPS from Shadowmourne.
Mhm.
And I think they used RAR at the time was like their sim was RAR. It's like an ancient program that Elitist Jerks people made to sim stuff. It's kind of a rudimentary sim, but it's useful. And I think on there they were saying that Ret gets the most. Fury Warrior gets like 1100 DPS from it, and Ret gets like 1500. So it's like, you know, it's a substantial upgrade.
But you
but I
can't
think
use the
Those
macro
old
or you don't
Sims,
get it.
dude.
You can't use the
Old
macro or you
busted
don't
Cannot use the
Sims.
macro or you're passed on Shadowmourne Prow. The minute it
Old
goes,
yeah.
yo, Sarthe, you
busted
get it as Ret.
Sims.
Oh, he uses macro. You don't get it. Go to the next one.
If you care about 6% damage, right, then you can't ask for Shadowmourne. If you don't
Exactly. You
care.
really can't.
So but the post was actually really funny because the post was talking about how Shadowmourne is giving the most damage to Ret. Like Ret gets the most absolute raw DPS from it. But at the bottom it was like, but actually if you replace your Ret with a Fury Warrior,
Of course.
you get even more damage.
Of course.
So we don't know yet.
Well,
The
at that
data's
stage
not
of the
there.
game, that's where you're because you have the fire mage. Yeah, well, I mean, no one's arcane.
I mean, that's
you might. That's
that's
when
when
you're
we
gonna want
have.
the Ret, right? You're gonna have the Ret for sure. back
Yeah,
then.
I mean, we're gonna be strong.
Well,
at
yeah,
that
you
point.
have spin to win. So the only argument I see for Ret is we have to see the version of Shadowmourne we get. I'd highly anticipate we obviously would get like it seems like obvious that we would get the 3.3.5 version, so that's the nerfed version. But like having spin to win it because Divine Storm you were saying obviously like moves off of like melee damage, right?
Yeah.
So like of your weapon, it's gonna be crazy if a Ret the warrior Discord's gonna blow up.
What
we
is it- when is
need,
it not
for
blowing
it.
up.
Pretty
If
much
the
every
Ret argues
class.
for it.
Pretty much every class uses WoW Sims now, which is like it's like the one-stop shop for all Sims. You can go on there and sim like any class, and I think most classes are using that now. They just put Shadowmourne in, like they just implemented the proc, So until we get some data about like how good it is and get the canceller implemented, like we're just not going to be able to know how good it is. So hopefully we have some people working on the sim that can kind of develop that
Give it to the
and
Felguard.
tell us how good it is. Yeah.
Somehow give it to the Felguard.
I think that we're definitely getting it before Unholy, that's for sure, right? So
Hey,
I mean,
justice
Unholy
for the
doesn't.
Ret.
Unholy is like a dual wield spec now, isn't it?
wait,
I think
really?
I think they said until they get Shadowmourne, then it would two-hand. Sorry
Yeah,
for
yeah, I
those
think
that
that's
don't
when they
know.
go two-hand.
Okay, we're sandbagging.
I could
Got it.
100% be wrong about that. Sarthe no, but I'm pretty sure that's what they said.
Sorry, what did you say?
You dual
We're
wield
just talking
Unholy
about how-
until Shadowmourne, then you would go two-hand. Then you would go two-hand,
That's
right?
yeah, that's the only
Yeah,
time you
okay.
go two-hander
Yeah.
for Unholy. That's gonna it's I'm staying
It's
away from even
sandbagging.
actually
It's
like
alright.
yeah, even actually dealing with Shadowmourne Prio. Like just you should I'm
So
just
it's
saying
in
you
a
should know
boiling
who
down
should
to
get it.
Fury or Ret.
It's like the warriors who went hunter until the start of phase 3, and then they went back to warrior for glyphs. Like, you're sandbagging. It's fine. We know. We see you.
FOTM, baby.
Yo, you gotta do what the guild
Yo,
needs
hey,
on this
yeah, flavor of the month,
one.
baby. You know, need that slurp.
Um,
Oh,
yeah.
you just
The
showed me
moral of the
something?
story. The moral of the
yours?
story
Okay.
is no. Yeah, that's just my stuff.
Thank you.
The moral of the story is Ret is prio for the weapon.
Did one of you guys want to touch? We don't really talk about PvP too much on here because we'll have separate PvP episodes. But if one of you guys knows enough about PvP that could talk about it for
Serve is probably the best. to
talk
go
about it.
to.
All I want to say is, I mean, it's rare, but I'm in these pre-patch BGs every now and then getting one tapped by Ret, just coming up like nothing happened and it just mink. So.
It's definitely super strong right now in pre-patch. It's actually super wild. It's like I'm honestly stunned by how broken it is, really, because like you can just heal yourself. If somebody can't silence you, you're just healing yourself like permanently. Like you just insta flash of light, boom, divine storm, heal myself. If you really have to, you can like bubble, lay on hands, whatever. It's honestly super busted. We have like our whole toolkit right now, so we're really strong in battlegrounds, and you can just cleave people down.
We're missing one defensive thing, and that's the shield.
Yeah, that's right. So, as far as like PvP goes, I can give you some basics. Basically, you're gonna want to use, just like in TBC. If you guys played Ret in TBC, you have a spell called Sacrifice, Hand of Sacrifice. It used to be Blessing of Sacrifice, but it's Hand now. It's gonna be really important for keeping yourself out of CCs. It transfers damage to you, so you keep it up on somebody, and then if they get hit, it'll break you out of a CC. That's still gonna be really important. But now it actually transfers like a lot of damage. So if you need to save somebody from dying, then you can use it in that regard as well. That's going to be like what separates, just like in TBC, that's what separates like a really good Ret from a okay Ret is a good use of Blessing of Sacrifice. And then you still have, you still have your classic Bop. You're going to want to use Seal of Righteousness most of the time in like Arena because you don't want to break CCs with Seal of Command. And Seal of Vengeance typically takes too long to stack up and they can just dispel the dot. So Seal of Vengeance really suffers in Arena. Righteousness is really good. It doesn't hit as hard on melees, but every time you judge, you get an extra hit.
Oh,
And every time you judge, it hits really hard. It hits like way harder than I think anything but maybe 5-stack Vengeance. So it's really bursty. If you want to burst somebody down, you can like save your judge. Another thing is that we have instant cast Hammer of Wrath now. If it seems like if you get somebody below 20%, they will die. Like if you instantly hammer at 20%, they will not survive, is what I found basically. Because it almost always crits, and it does like 4k damage right now, and we're expecting that to keep scaling with AP and spell power. So that's probably always going to be really strong. If you get somebody that low, they're probably just dead. Your common teammates are going to be Disc Priest and Hunter. I think Rogue is still a decently viable teammate for like 2s. I think they're planning on still allowing you to get Glad from 2s, even though that wasn't a thing in Wrath. So if that's the case, then Ret Disc and Ret Hunter are going to be your 2 best comps in 2v2. And then in 3v3, I think everybody's just planning on playing Cupid Cleave, which is Ret Hunter Disc. It's kind of like a PMR type setup, right? Like you and a Disc and a Hunter all work really well together, whether it's 2v2 or 3v3. You can play with either of them. and it works. It's kind of like PMR or RMP in TBC in that regard. So you still have a lot of the same utility as TBC. You're not really going to go reckoning like you would in TBC. You're going to kind of stick to your Ret tree unless you go preg, which is something I don't really know that much about. I know it's like a prot based spec that uses like a one-hander and a shield.
Preg
Yeah,
OP.
it's like it's a little more prot heavy, and you're using spell damage weapon and a shield, so you're using the Shield of the Righteous for like extra burst, holy burst, instead of like your Seal of Command, or sorry, instead of your Divine Storm.
I've heard it's really good and consistently good in like season 6, and maybe and then for the rest of the expansion after that. I don't know how good it's going to be in season 5. So I guess we'll have to see. I just don't know enough about it to say, but I do know that like you could get rank 1 as Ret in TBC if you played with a shaman, but it was really hard and you're kind of climbing uphill and you had to face against all these rogue and mage teams that just have so many advantages over you. If they don't make any mistakes, they're just going to win most of the time. Unless you're Canet Nerd, who is like the best Ret shaman gamer of all time, and you just like never leave combat, so a rogue can't sap you because you have all these little tricks to keep yourself in combat forever. One thing that's interesting about that is that in TBC we use the axe, the decapitator, because you can throw it from 40 yards and it instantly puts you in combat. Since we don't have mana tap anymore, we don't really have any spells that go that far. You're probably still going to see people using decapitator to get in combat from really far away. That way you won't get sapped or any other CC. Yeah, so you take your decapitator, you put it on, you throw it at somebody, you get in combat, and then you just rank 1 heal each other, and you pass combat back and forth forever. You never go and they cannot sap you. Literally cannot sap you, and that's probably still going to be a thing in Wrath.
Well, you probably go now with the downranking change.
Oh, that's true. I didn't even think about that. Actually, you're right. I guess you probably have to go in.
There's got to be something else that you could use to do it. Probably
as soon as you decapitator, you probably just rush in as soon as you get to decapitator, right?
You can use the group sack to break CCs and stuff.
Yeah, you can still do that. And like your teammate can do all kinds of things. Like if you're playing with a disc, I think they can Shadow Word Death, and it'll instantly break you if you have sack up, right? So,
yep,
that's really easy to do. And I think obviously your Repent is good. One of your main CCs, Hammer of Wrath, is good, but it takes a little bit of a hit in some ways because it used to be a 35-second cooldown if you had the talent and the set bonus, but they removed the set bonus and they made it's just 1 minute cooldown, and there's like no way to reduce it as far as I can tell, right? So that is kind of painful because we already don't have a lot of CC. But we are going to be able to rely on our off healing a little bit more, so maybe it's not such a bad thing, because if your disc is like dying or your hunter is dying, like you can drop a holy light on them and like heal their whole health bar if it crits. So it's like
you can at least get a 40-second Hodge. So that's at least.
Oh, you can 40 seconds. Yeah. Okay, that's not too bad then.
Yeah.
And then of course also your Hodge. We didn't say this, but in PvE it also is like an interrupt. It's not in PvP, but
yeah. So
in PvP.
Yeah, stun immune mobs you can stun that are interruptible. Yeah, you can still interrupt them. But it's on the GCD, so that's unfortunate.
Yeah, and so what was it? Oh fuck, I can't remember. Oh well. But yeah, I mean, Ret's looking pretty strong. The off healing is, I think, one thing that's going to be a big benefit to us. And like TBC, you could get rank 1 as Ret, but it was really hard. And now it's going to be a lot more viable. You can play with more people. You have a much better chance of being able to get high rated. You're just much more viable in general.
The gist is like you deal a little less damage than most DPSers, but you have so much utility as a Ret that it's almost not fair. Like you're able to 1v1 just about anything because of the amount of self heals.
If they can't silence you, you're gonna win.
Sustain. And even then, you just keep yourself popped off constantly. Like you're constantly getting instant flashes off and everything. So
do Ret get any sort of mobility abilities in Wrath, or is it
just freedom?
Only
that, and the passive 15% from Pursuit of Justice. That is actually our mobility
pretty
is our
strong.
one
Only?
weakness.
Yeah, imagine not having any.
They even
we don't
What
have
you
any.
you have gate and recall.
Gate's not a movement and pairing speed. What are you talking about? I can put that down somewhere and come back to it
No,
in 40 yards.
in
That's it.
PvP,
Yeah, but you can, I know, but we're
PvP.
ranged. We can't there's no movement speed to get anywhere. That's like the biggest crutch of all class casters almost, besides Boomy, because they can like dash out, glyph a dash. We don't have period.
Fine, you
In
have,
general,
that's why-
at all.
that's
And
fine.
BGs, when I'm trying to run from these fucking DKs or refs chasing me, I
thinking
cannot get away.
purely
Bro.
arena,
You're tripping, bro.
right?
You're
I'm thinking
super
purely
tripping.
arena.
Yeah.
You have
Um,
Chaos Bolt, it's fine.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah, and PGs, you just one shot people with your chaos bolt. I see it being cast, and I'm like, that guy's dead.
Oh, look,
I
this
literally
guy's
watch
shield,
you.
this guy's popped cooldowns. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, I literally watched you like you're running toward mob, and then you just turned around. I was like, oh, he must have saw me casting that shit. Or something.
Yeah,
You just
dude,
turned around.
I
and-
straight up, literally, it's in the air. If it's in the air, I fully will turn to another person that I'm fighting in battlegrounds.
Are you doing more BGs today?
Yeah, I will.
Hit me up when you're doing
I'm
it.
just farming Baron Ribbon Deer Mount.
that's like one of the reasons why I think it's gonna suck for us in particular that we don't have nitro boosts anymore in arena, because we kind of rely on them a lot to get around and close the gap on people. That was always one of the hardest things about TBC, is closing the gap on people, and they also cut the duration of freedom down to like 6 seconds. Although it does get you out of stuns. You can use it to get out of stuns and use it on other people to get out of stuns. And I think I heard somebody saying about getting out of saps, but I don't know if that's actually a thing. So
Getting out of sap with it?
yeah, I don't actually think that's a thing,
Incapacitates?
but
I don't.
I don't think it's a thing, but somebody
No.
told me that, and I just haven't checked.
I don't think it's a thing, but you can still like group stack and you'll get out of
Yeah, you
sap,
can sack
so-
it out. So
And you don't even just have to hand of sack. Like you have 2 ways to break damage breaking CCs. It's not just the one. So
What was Divine Speed? Legion?
Divine
Or
Steed
BFA?
is
Divine
yeah, I don't
Legion
know.
or BFA? One of
It's-
them.
that's
so
a
nice.
retail. That's a retail.
It's so nice.
deal.
I'm not gonna lie.
You know what's
dude.
crazy
You
is
literally
those
just like
those
mount up
abilities
insta.
that they gave to a lot of the specs in retail. I want those so bad right now. Like Divine
Dude,
Steed.
Ret-
Gate.
Man.
Ret early Shadowlands
Yeah,
in
Burning Rush.
arenas. I would queue rated arenas with my Ret and my Rogue, and my Rogue would be AFK in the back. I would run in with my Ret, kill both of them, and then be out of it. And I went up to like almost 2K rating that way.
Crazy.
And then I started doing that. And then like once if I would die, I would try to kill one of them, and then I would bring my Rogue to finish it. It was so stupid at the beginning of Shadowlands. It's fucking awesome.
I miss retail.
Oh,
I mean,
Ret's a blast.
honestly, overall, I'm having so much fun. Like I thought I was not gonna have that much fun, because twisting was just like my life. Like I fucking love twisting people so much. Like you get reckoning proc, you just go one shot somebody. It was awesome. But like I am really having a lot of fun, more fun than I thought I was gonna have. And I never actually have had this much fun on trash. I always hated trash. I played a rogue and now I play a ret. So as you can imagine, like trash is not
Oh,
my
yeah.
thing.
Oh, now you're happy.
But I love it
Trash
now.
is so fun. You're
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
watching your screen. Like this is where you need to do like what the Chinese guilds do and modify your damage output so it's like covering half your screen, and you just divine storm
numbers.
and just watch it. Just oh, it's so good. It's so good.
These rogues have been doing some crazy AoE lately too.
Yeah, rogues
Just
are
wait.
nuts.
Just wait.
Fan of
Just wait till they get
Knives shit, bro.
fan of knives,
Yeah,
dude.
NFL Striker or whatever it's called. Watching Simon do it earlier. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot, a lot of AoE out there now.
The
which I
dark
love.
mantle, the dark
Oh,
mantle,
dude.
fell striker, fan of knives
Crazy.
spam. I love it. I love that kind of tech. Simonize is the best for that kind of stuff. He always finds the craziest shit.
Crazy, man. Next is leveling. Any like if you guys had like a dungeon cleaving build, and then kind of
So
like
I'm-
if you just want to talk about what you do if you're open worlding.
Oh, okay. Real quick. Hold on. Real quick.
Yeah.
You can freedom people while you are sap.
Oh yeah,
That's
that
what
makes
it
sense.
is. Apparently. I haven't tested it, but that's what I'm told. So that's what it is.
Wow.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, leveling, we're OP as hell. Terryn, take it away.
Dungeon Cleave, your Ret can be your healer for like your 4 DPS groups at least until like 75 to like the 75 to 78 dungeons. Then you'll probably want to have something with a little bit more healing do that. Make your spell hands do it. And And then for solo, Ret is probably the best solo leveling class in the game. If you, especially like early on, so I'm actually doing like the solo leveling because I'm trying to get the world, or not the world, but the server first 80, and you're able to solo 3-man group quests up until like 77. It's hilarious.
Well, here's the thing. Before people start spamming cope, I don't think it is the best. I think it's up there with the best, including like an Aflock, Shadow Priest, and a Ret. I would put those three in a completely different bracket in open world by themselves, and I didn't believe it until I was over here shredding on the beta, and some Ret Paladin comes in running his fucking mouth. I was like, dude, Ret's garbage. Showed me. We watched the whole clip, and it was like a very impressive. It's like very impressive that they were up there like that.
If you run just your standard, so like if you run, especially if you run like the Brutal Gladiator set. You've got a lot of crit, a lot of hit, a lot of resilience, which helps your damage intake. And then you run just a fast one hand and shield. You'll have so many instant cast flash of lights that you're able to just keep yourself sustained with. Judgment of Light. The fact that when you're judging vengeance, it's not actually dependent on your weapon damage. So that just doesn't matter. The seal damage doesn't matter on your weapon damage, like how fast your weapon damage is. It's all the same. Because it's just a % damage rather than like based on some normalized attack. So Ret's solo capabilities up until like the upper 70s is hilarious.
You're basically literally always full health, always full mana.
Yep.
It doesn't matter how many mobs you pull. Like you're always full health and mana. You can just you never have to drink, and that's like the biggest thing is you just never have to sit down.
Yep. And then you're just you're a cleave god. Like you just deal so much damage in dungeon groups.
On the beta, I was getting like 900k XP an hour doing quests. So I think you can probably get a little bit higher than that if you go a really good route. Probably hit 1 million if you're going really fast.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess some people are trying to do like dungeon routes where they like solo a dungeon for XP or something like that. I guess some people are trying to work something out like that, but nobody wants to snitch.
Yeah, you're better off with prot, but we're not snitching boosting strategies right now. So
yeah, because you know Blizzard, they'll just take it away if they hear about it.
Unless you're a mage, of course.
I cannot believe that they nerfed strat, and then people just started boosting other stuff instead. And like, if you go into strat as a paladin, you just get stunned and you die. Like they just manually nerfed strat boosting, but then they just left everything else in the game.
Yeah, just go to slave pens.
Fine, because Ret can solo like your level 63 dungeons and get more gold per hour that way than you could getting strat right now. And then you can also boost people in like Shattered Halls. I was boosting a DK. DK friend that I was helping boost on opening day, he was getting about 800k an hour in Shattered Halls with me. Because you can pull,
That's
go
phenomenal.
through. You can actually go through up through the the big gladiator poles, like the two. You've got like the 2 sets on each side, and you got 2 sets of them.
Yeah, they're
you can
almost
solo.
dead.
You can solo all the way through that, like even if they're at full health. But that's more a prot thing than Ret. So
Just swap specs. Is how I guess the gear is different enough.
The gear is wildly different. I personally found that doing the first boss as Ret is a lot easier. But people are doing it as prod as well. Ret, as far as like gold farming and like just general solo content, like you can solo. You can actually solo most dungeons as Ret. You just do it a lot slower at the higher levels because prot can become physically immune and just literally pull everything. Whereas Ret, you can kill small groups really fast. So Ret's actually better for like the 61 to 65 brackets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well,
I think.
Did you last is prepatch? I think it's still like a leveling. Is that it? Yeah, it's prepatch. Prepatch build. I'm gonna pull up your WoW guide right now. At the end of this, KJ, because you're pumping. I'm literally addicted to watching this right now. It's so crazy.
The build that I showed earlier was literally
one
your prepatch
goal.
build.
Oh, okay, cool.
I even missed a bunch of haste buffs because we didn't do the stack strat in this fight.
That's cool. Okay. So your build is just a one-time all one. Where's it at?
Yeah.
I like that. That's good. Cool.
It's just it's 5.
Oh, because you put the next 10 points.
5
Okay,
divine
yeah.
strength. Yeah, that's just your build that way.
Cool.
It's the one I linked way above in chat. It's in the notes. Hold on.
I think it's your right. Your pre-patch one. Link it again if you need me to.
I got it.
Yeah, this is like the utility build that gets all the different buffs that you might not need in a raid.
This is like your optimal damage spec, and it's pretty much fine for pre-patch because as long as you have a mage and a boomkin, like all those buffs are covered.
Oh, I guess I'm a little bit delayed here. Yeah, this one with 5 out of 5 Seals of the Pure. That's what I'm running right now, and it's. I mean, 4 points in Seal of the Pure is a lot of damage to not have. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Even like having those buffs like the 3% haste or the 3% damage for 10 mans is like there's something to be said about that. But honestly, like 10 mans are a joke. You can clear with ZA in 10 minutes. So like, why bother?
Yeah.
Even Sunroll. And as you guys saw from this fantastic footage, which I'll link from Ret pumps, bro, pumping the overall. I mean, he's pumping the damage out.
Ret's really just fun right now. I think you guys, it's a fun class.
Yeah, if anybody has like a Ret that they can play right now, just try it out. It's great.
Especially BGs, like Ret right now in BGs is as long as you're not in like green boosted gear, you are actually invincible. Like if you get a little bit of brutal, some clear gear on you, like you're basically invincible.
Wear a little bit of extra Resil if you can, because it's kind of OP right now, because they added like a Resil's been changed to the Wrath Resil. So now it DRs damage, all damage against you, so it's really, really strong. You can kind of get away with a little bit less Resil as Ret because you have so much sustain, but I would recommend just going a little bit higher with your Resil, just so you can tank people and cleave all kinds of stuff. So
I was gonna say, yesterday I'm on like I'm a big killing blow guy, right? And I'm just burning time in BGs. And there was a Ret Paladin in there who had 51 killing blows.
I saw that video. That was
in the BG with us, absolutely just dicking everybody down, dude. It was crazy.
Yeah, I think it's like we're just so much more kitted out than most people. We have all of our level 80 abilities pretty much, besides like 1 or 2, and we're in a very good position in pre-patch compared to a lot of other people. And this is why a lot of people remember Ret as being really good at this point in early Wrath and in pre-patch. And there also was differences, like we still had Seal of Blood in pre-patch in 2007, and like a green geared Ret could kill anybody in like a Hodge. So when 3.0 came out and the pre-patch came out for Wrath, there was like a 2-day period where Ret was just like crazy busted, and that seems to be like what everybody remembers for some reason. But yeah, I mean, I think we see something similar in the pre-patch now, which is just that we have our whole kit, and that was the case back in 2007 too, and that's like a huge part. Is just we have pretty much everything. We're gonna have 80. We have a lot more things to play with than other classes do, so we're just relatively very strong, and we still hit hard as hell. So.
Terryn, any last little words here, guys? We're wrapping it up.
Not really,
Any
unless we wanted to actually talk.
well?
I haven't personally. I haven't been paying attention to questions.
I have. Yeah, I've been asking them as we go. We're pretty good on them. Go ahead. What are you saying?
Yeah. I don't know if I had actually gone through and looked at because I know a few other people were curious. Like everyone remembers with rose-tinted glasses that Ret was like just pumping early on, and everyone's dooming on Ret. And I actually like went through, and it's interesting how little the class even changed as far as like damage components.
Any access?
Oh, you don't have access to that? Oh, that's hold on.
No, we had like a holy damage Divine Storm, which was nice. It like did more damage because
that was in pre-patch though, so that was changed even before Nax. So like,
yeah,
I fixed that doc, but like, I went through and like looked at every single change, at least things that were documented, and checked through like undocumented changes as well. And over the course of the game, like the most damage change that I saw was like the Seal of Blood changed. So this was actually really fun. So like when you started in Wrath, originally you had Seal of Blood, and if anyone has ever done the achievement for Malagos where you try and do the speed clear, you stack the sparks, right?
Mhm.
Well, Judgment of Blood dealt a lot of damage, but then dealt 33% of that damage back to you. And they actually had to change it in 3.1 to like scale a lot of that damage onto the steel and take it off to the judgment, because you could just kill yourself, like just one shot kill yourself. Like I don't know if you've ever seen like a Shadow Word death on a mob that has bonus damage taken, and they just deal an absurd amount
Reliquary
damage
of
to themselves.
Souls.
Yeah, like the Reliquary of Souls. Well, the same thing would happen to Ret, where you judge and you would literally one-shot yourself on Malagos. So that changed, like it was a little bit of damage because you moved also some of that vengeance, the deep wounds damage off. But I didn't really find anything that was a major damage decrease across the board. Like Seal Command lost some damage, but that wasn't even a cleave effect until 3.2. Like I think what ended up happening is more so that every other class got brought up rather than Ret being brought down, and we're now just playing. It's like playing it like the original classic was just wildly different than what you would play in like original vanilla when the game launched, because there were just so many class changes across the game. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, pretty much most of these changes don't have really anything to do with damage. Some of them do, obviously, but
yeah, but they're not huge. They don't account for like this wide damage gap that we're like seeing. I also think that a lot of it just comes down to like the Ret is not like a high I wouldn't call it like a high skill cap class. Like you still have to be to really min max to like from 95 to 99%, yeah. But it's not a high skill ceiling class across the board. And I think that might be some of it, maybe, as well, as it was just so much easier back then when we were all really bad gamers. So I don't know. But yeah, like I said, I couldn't find anything that was just a major damage change.
So I see this Crusader Strike went 110 to 75. When did it come back up to 94? Because right now it's 93.8, I think, which is a weird number.
That might have been a 3.0 change.
Like a middle ground, I guess.
I don't know. That might have been a 3.0 change, but like the 100 to 75, that was when it dropped to a 4-second cooldown, and that was across the board a damage increase because it also procs steel, so you're getting that steel proc more also.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like there's a lot of rose-tinted goggles, and I think people are just kind of misremembering. And I think also people, there's a lot of private server charlatans out there who think they know exactly how it's supposed to be because they played Warmain. And like, yeah, okay, you can get some insight from playing private servers, but let's not base all our knowledge off of it because a lot of it turns out to be wrong. I'm a reformed private server charlatan myself, so I can tell you how many things I was wrong about, and it's pretty staggering. So
insane. Wrong so much that I fucking stopped even guessing it now. I'm like, yep.
Yeah, right.
Let the big boy. I'm gonna let you guys handle that shit. Charlatans, that was a good one. Well, can I just say thank you guys for not only just coming on the show, but for the amount of preparation you guys brought to it. No one's really, I mean, obviously,
yeah, incredible.
A couple people did, but you guys, that was like, you made it way easy for me. That was like way easy. I was like, so I appreciate you guys, man.
Yeah, we wanted to answer. We're getting a lot of questions in Light Club. By the way, the link will be down wherever you can find all the links. And if you want to come and join us in Light Club, we have all the most up-to-date info. Just come say hi and chill with us. We got some spectacular personalities in there, I will say.
Yeah. Light Club's definitely not nearly as bad as some of the other Discords.
Yeah, we keep. I mean, we it self-moderates to a pretty decent degree, so there's nothing super. It's not like super toxic or anything. And
just
come say hi to us. And yeah, stay out of nightclub.
Don't go there.
Wait, stay out of which one?
Club?
Nightclub is our anything goes channel. It's like a thread underneath Retribution.
Oh my god.
Nightclub. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, nightclub.
That's hilarious.
That's where we tell people to go when they want to shitpost. So
yeah, if you gotta have a place for it.
Yeah, and that way we don't have to ban people like ever. So it's great. But if
you know it's a crazy channel when you click in, it says NSFW. Yes, you're like, oh.
Well, we haven't gone that far yet. I don't.
Yeah, no, it's not that. There are some rules, but Our your general like moderation thing. The Jannies aren't as involved there.
Yeah, we shitpost ourselves there, so.
Yeah.
Surveillance.
You know, come into the Discord, say hi. Me and Terryn have YouTube channels. We make videos. If you want to come
linking
check
them
them out.
right now as we speak.
Yeah,
I just linked Terryn's. I got surveillance is coming up right now. I'm not even following.
I'm gonna try to actually be more active in YouTube now that I've got a little more time on my hands. So
I think I say this to everybody, but I mean it. I think there's coming from someone who did this. I think there's a very good, if I can use the word market, for every class spec to do some kind of guides. You know, beginner guides, enhanced guides, all types of stuff. Like enhanced, I'm sorry. You know, advanced guides, any kind. People want the content. There's a large majority of people, I'm pretty sure I don't need to tell you guys this, but I will anyway, that do not give a fuck about class discords. And sometimes they come in there, it's the same with the Warlock, any discord. Sometimes they come in there and they go, hey, what's this? And you guys get flamed, check pins. They don't know what pins are. You already know, right? There's not enough guides out there for every class. Warlock for every class out there. So don't be afraid to post that shit, especially if you know that, man. Especially, you know, just do it. Just do it. People love that shit.
We kind of filled a gap in TBC because with seal twisting, everything was like brand new, right? There was like no data on anything, so we kind of filled that gap and are gonna try to continue filling that gap for Wrath for anything.
Yeah, and Blaze is not
new.
streaming Ret anymore too, right? So that's gonna be a big deal.
I know, man. I miss him
Feels
so bad.
bad.
I'm not the same without him. He's my other half, dude. I need Blaze back.
I miss him, bro.
Somebody get him to reroll Ret.
I can't believe he's going to Warrior.
Well,
I can't
listen,
believe he's like the Ret
when
guy.
he finds out that Shadowmourne is Ret prio, he'll be back.
Yeah, well, when we had Esfond,
Yeah.
when we had Esfond and Amaranth on the Ret Pally podcast, we kind of peaked, and I guess he just decided that we couldn't get anything higher than that, so it was time to call it.
Oh, dude, it's our time to get Amaranth on the podcast, guys.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
You know,
dude.
just reach out.
There's the Frosty K one. I just linked it. It was Sarthe made it. I just linked it.
Well, thanks for
Okay.
having us. I mean, it was a
Of
lot
course,
of fun.
yeah. We're gonna do a phase one catch up, like a Ret catch up. We got an hour of just talking about how it turned out and kind of prepping. I'm thinking towards the end of. Towards like I don't know, maybe the end. We haven't figured out where we can prep for phase 2 a little bit. Kind of like, all right, well, here's your phase 2. You know, you get it. You can imagine what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I can talk about. I can talk about how I'm a Warlock main for phase 2.
There you go. Hey,
Yeah, you're gonna talk about how like, damn it, this is the worst phase for us.
Yeah. And then for those wondering, we'll post this probably not tomorrow, but the next day because we did just post a Shadow Priest one yesterday.
Yeah.
We'll probably give it 2
No
days,
worries.
but I will. I'm pretty sure he does the same thing. I'm gonna upload it to YouTube and just leave it unlisted, and then people who, because we're both gonna be streaming all day, and then whoever just wants it, we'll just give you like the unlisted, like nothing on it. It's just a dry VOD, so you just peek out while we're for a couple days, and we'll get it
I'll
up probably like 48 hours from now.
I have my second part 2 video about the one button video coming out like later today or tomorrow, and I'll post the VOD of this on my channel sometime today or tomorrow as well. So
then do that, and then send us the link to that, and then I'll make sure that in the VOD, in the description and in the actual footage from the deep dive, I'll have it like pin up in, you know how you can go, oh, click this video up here, and you can like have it link, so I'll put them in there too.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, and anything you guys want in the description, just throw it in there, and then fucking love you guys. That was a
thank you so much for being here. That was sick. Like, I'm excited about the class, so it's cool.
I would like to
learning
see
more
you
about
playing it,
obviously.
Sarthe. I would like to see you play
I was
it.
excited. I thought he was, bro. I swear to God, he was going to play main Ret.
Yeah, well,
And
for
then DK
retail,
happened, bro.
Retail like versions of WoW, I've always mained Rogue, and then it was Ret, and then it was DK, and so like
So you're going
those
Ret
have
with
always
Dragonflight.
been it, or also like prop Paladin, because like once you get into like Mythic Plus, like I really like tanking Mythic Plus. Once you get to like the really high keys,
gross.
it's annoying if you don't have a really good tank. Oh my god, whatever. Ret is sick, dude.
Are you gonna go
is
Ret for
sick.
Dragonflight then? Confirmed.
I'll probably be Ret Prot as my like main. Yeah, it's generally my main. Ret Prot is, and then Rogue and whatever else.
Terry, you making your way back to retail?
If I find time, I don't know. There's a lot of retail's always got too many time sinks across the board, so
yeah, that's my problem with it.
I gotta see how that pans out, and I got time.
We say that, and then we fly across the world for 15 minutes to fucking get to a dungeon.
I have time for like one activity at a time, and like also like Dota season's about to kick up, so I really want to get into that for a couple of weeks. So.
I just got a virtual reality headset, and I'm trying to beat Resident Evil 4, and it's
What'd you get, Oculus?
I got the Oculus. It is fucking awesome playing Resident Evil 4.
Level.
And I mean, Beat Saber is, if you like Guitar Hero as a kid, then you fucking love Beat Saber. So,
Beat Saber's like Guitar Hero on crack, dude. It's crazy.
I know. I've been trying to play more of it because I just haven't been able to play as much as I would like to. So
good workout for my fat ass too. That shit gets me tired. I'll do one game like
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. The healing deep dives. The order now goes. What's today? Today's whatever. The next one is gonna be enhance and Ellie.
Enhance. Oh,
I think it's going Ellie, then enhance. We'll figure it out, and then lock, hunter, warrior, tank deep dive, healer deep dive. All in that order, and then obviously we'll have a time. We'll have like a probably, if we can. We're deciding on if we want to do the tank and the healer separate or do one big one. So what I think we're going to do is do like a full tank deep dive and see how it feels with all 4 tanks and make sure all the information got out. And if something felt like it was a little lacking, we'll do another one of the specific class ones.
Yeah, guys. So stay tuned and make sure you like and subscribe to Crix's channel. Easy.
And Sarthe, because we're doing the enhanced one on his next. So
yeah.
see you guys in a couple